Welcome in to Check the Mic, presented by FanDuel. Steve Palazzolo Sam Monson. We're live from the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies, thanks to Drew Collins, the billionaire.
Our Howard Hughes billionaire.
Howard Hughes billionaire, who has named our studio. It's time for our Week 7 update. We've got Shouty Shows, we've got news, we've got trade candidates. Maybe the most action-packed Wednesday show we've ever had here, Sam.
Yes.
But first, live.
Reunion show.
Oh, we need to have something for the the phone line or whatever, for the Zoom call. Yeah,
Go
somebody sponsor this. We've got Austin Gayle, kind of in the house. Yeah. We're going right to Austin.
He comes right into the studio.
Right into the studio. Look at him. Hey, buddy. How's it going?
I'm in the studio. I feel like I'm with you guys.
Yeah. You're welcome anytime. We know you don't really love Cincinnati, but if you happen to be stopping through anytime, come by.
I'll think about it. I'll consider it.
If you were here, I'd ask you for a refill on my coffee like I used to do when we were live on air. Like, Austin, I forgot to fill up my coffee.
The good old days. Yeah. The good old days. You don't realize you're in the good old days until you've actually left them. You really didn't feel it.
How's it going?
Living the dream here. Sunny San Diego. It's 6 a.m. my time because you guys said you don't recognize Pacific time. You sent me, hey, could you do 9 a.m.? And I was like, oh, I don't know what time zone. He's like, oh, we don't recognize any other time zone besides.
I did tell you we were willing to move it a little bit, you know? Like I was going to give we were willing to give you an hour.
I didn't want to inconvenience you.
Could have dropped you into the back end of the show, but no. This is better. This is the way to kick it off. Austin Gayle of The Ringer. What's happening? What's going on with life, Austin?
I got married.
Congratulations.
I got the wedding ring on now. I can't stop playing with it. It's like a fidget thing. I feel like I'm going to lose it someday. Got married. It was amazing. Went honeymoon. We went Maui. The Raiders suck. I don't know if that's news, but we're back in that. I feel like I like every single year, I thought, maybe this year would be different. Felt good about the coach, felt good about the quarterback, and it's not been good. It's actually being the oldest coach in the NFL has turned out to not be exactly what we needed. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, it's actually impressive how bad that's gone. I think everyone was pretty optimistic about the Raiders, like the idea that Pete Carroll and Geno Smith would really raise the floor of that group, and it just hasn't.
I do feel like there was a lot of national conversation about them being like that plucky playoff team. I don't think I ever was that high on them because I think a lot of people forgot that the offensive line that is in front of Ashton Jeanty is actually the same exact offensive line that was in front of the team last year that had the worst rushing offense of like any team in the last 25 years. And now they're banged up. Colton Miller, their best offensive lineman, the left tackle is out. I think Dylan Parham's one of the worst guards in the league. They have, they don't even know if Jackson Powers Johnson is the starter. Apparently he's been in quiet competition with Alex Kappa the entire offseason and now into the season. Right tackle DJ Glaze. It's a bad last name to be a bad tackle in the league. I feel like the offensive line was always going to hold them back. What I feel like has surprised me is how poorly coached they look, specifically on special teams, which like you look back at like these Pete Carroll teams, like special teams and not turning over the football has like been big parts of like what Pete Carroll tries to do. And like they have one of the worst special team return units in the league. They've like given up big returns in almost every game this season. And then you look at with turnovers, like Geno Smith has been like completely fallen out in that regard. Like he's pushing, this last game plan against the Titans, he didn't throw a pass over 10 plus yards until like late in the fourth quarter. They really wanted to shrink the game down. They don't want him pushing it downfield. Like I feel like I like Ashton Jeanty. I think he's a good player. I think he reminds me of Saquon Barkley on the Giants and he remember when Ashton Jeanty wrote a letter to the NFL and he was like, hey, I could be like Saquon Barkley on the Eagles. God damn it. Then why did we take you 6th overall when you're going to be on a bad football team for the entirety of your rookie contract and you're going to watch him, just like Josh Jacobs, leave for another team probably and play on behind a better offensive line? I'm obviously not like where PFF was maybe like 8 years ago on running backs. I don't know if I'm there. Like I'm somewhere in between, but like it's very clear taking a running back in the top 10 when you're a bad football team and you're far away specifically along the offensive line, you're not going to be able to maximize that return into like postseason success, which this Raiders team desperately wants, hasn't had in like 22 years. They have the second longest active playoff win drought behind the Miami Dolphins. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a frustrating season. I could talk forever about it.
We got Austin cooking already. 6 a.m. your time. Yeah, right. How much coffee you had already?
None. I was going to try and sneak away to Starbucks, but I wanted to hit some last minute prep. I was watching some Baker Mayfield, some Drake Maye, some other stuff there.
Nice. The Starbucks, the coffee situation around the studio here is a bit rough, right? There's you got to go. Oh, you got to go back towards the city for like what's that place called? Like a root something.
Root coffee. Yeah.
For some fancy
Root
coffee
coffee.
shop. Yeah, something like. There's a Dunks like 2 blocks that way. It's one of those like Dunks combined with a gas station in a bad area though. It's like you've got to be really low on time to be willing to hit that Dunks. Plus Dunks coffee not great to begin with. So the child missed the bus this morning. I had to go to the Dunks on the way in. It's been a bad coffee morning already.
I feel like I couldn't make the Dunkin' Donut. Like, obviously, back on the West Coast, there's no Dunkin' Donuts really over here. I obviously, if I was born on the East Coast, Dunkin' Donuts would have been a part of my routine, like a Starbucks. Right. But how hard it would have been to like not get like a donut every single time. I don't know. I feel like how do you go to Dunkin' Donuts just get a coffee? I remember Dave Solfaro, old PFF guy. He's born on the East Coast. Every time he's going to Dunkin', he's getting like a giant caramel latte, and then also like a donut. And it's like, holy shit, you're walking out of there with like 900 calories.
Right. Like if you're on any kind of tracking thing, you're like, that's 40% of your day right there.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I've turned 30, by the way. I'm 31 now. I know you guys have known me since my early 20s. So once you turn 30, dude, you wake up and have like anything like that isn't good for you. You just feel like shit the entire day.
Oh, dude, like as people that have crossed the threshold of the next decade, wait until you figure out what's in store for you then. Not only are you gonna wake up in the future and feel what you ate the day before, you're gonna wake up and stuff that worked going to bed the night before is just not gonna work in the morning, right? Like you're gonna wake up and it's like, why is my knee sore? All I did is go to bed. Like what's with that? And then the knee will fix itself randomly, right? Nothing. You won't do anything. Like no rehab, no working out, nothing. The knee will just one day it won't hurt again. But then something else will be sore, right? And it's not when you're younger, when things hurt, you've injured them, and there's a weakness associated with like something's broken or torn or whatever, right? Now it'll just hurt. There'll be no corresponding lack of strength attached to it. It'll just be sore for a while, and then it'll go away and stuff. So there's all kinds of treats in store for you as you age.
You have a decade for that.
I really can't wait.
You've been grinding Drake Maye film, taking the league by storm here in year 2. What are you seeing from Drake Maye?
I feel like I've been trying to grapple with I feel like there's been a lot of like smaller Josh Allen or like Josh Allen light. I don't know if I don't know if I necessarily see Josh Allen. I feel like I'm closer to like a Herbert comp with Drake Maye. Like I feel like with Justin Herbert, I think he's getting out of it a little bit, and some of his best plays now are like this more human element. You look at the play to Ladd McConkey, where like I think Jim Harbaugh said it best, where he's like, I'm going to be thinking about that play long until they put dirt on me, in terms of like breaking pressure and getting it to a guy. I feel like with Maye, like he feels like a less robotic Herbert, where like he's playing a little bit more out of structure and is actually like doing the like not necessarily like this like big athletic monster like Josh Allen was, but like he doesn't have for me, I just don't see like the bozo in his game like you do see with Josh Allen sometimes, like kind of the confusing mistakes. I think Maye. I wanted to ask you guys to kind of do a quick redraft. I know you guys love those. The 2024 class and where you guys are at with the quarterbacks specifically, because I feel like now there's been some up and down play for Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels has been hurt a lot this year, but you have last year. But now Drake Maye, and I don't know. It's hard. It's obviously like prisoner of the moment and what have you done for me lately? It does feel like Maye is in the conversation, at least even after the season that Jaden Daniels had, to be the first quarterback off the board in that class.
Yeah, we sort of kicked this around a little bit the other day, and then in the reaction show for the last game as well, or the Monday night games as well. I think up until the last couple of weeks, it's been clear, Jaden Daniels number 1, and then probably still Caleb Williams number 2, and then Drake Maye, and then Drake Maye would be in that conversation. After the last couple of weeks, I think you're right. I would still go Jaden Daniels number 1, but Drake Maye's getting pretty close to that conversation.
The guy that woke up at 6 a.m. used to make us write listicles.
Wants a listicle live.
Is asking for a live redraft 5 weeks into the NFL season.
Let's do all 32 picks, guys.
Let's go all the way through.
You can't take that out of him.
I mean, Drake, look, if we forget, I mean, before Jaden Daniels broke out and had the Heisman winning season, like he wasn't that good before that. He was fine, but he was unbelievable his last year. Before that, it was a legitimate conversation between Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, right? I used to put polls out there all the time, like, who do you like? And it was like 70-30 Caleb Williams, but there were enough Drake Maye people I was shocked, Austin, if you remember the draft community at the time, the number of smart NFL analysts that kind of dismissed Drake Maye. I was actually shocked by it. I really thought that people put Caleb Williams in his own tier, and then they were like, oh, I think Jaden Daniels might overtake Drake Maye for 2. And the whole thing was surprising to me at the time. And now Drake Maye, like some of the questions on him, some accuracy and hitting some easy throws, like he's completing like 73% of his passes. I feel like he's answered some of those. And then we get into this whole, how much is the environment? How, if every coach is going to come out and say, well, teams fail QBs more than anything, then it doesn't matter, right? A lot of analysts come out, they working under the premise that every quarterback is good. They only fail because of the environment and the coach. And so now you have Drake Maye with a bad environment in year 1 and presumably a good environment and certainly a better offensive line and some playmakers, and all of a sudden he's good. But I think there's a conversation about Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye at the top, and you would say Caleb Williams might be a tick below right now. And I know Bears fans are excited because he just won. They just won. Sure. But like there's
still reason to be excited. I mean, he's still unquestionably freaky talented.
Yeah.
The questions with Caleb Williams, I don't think are his ceiling. It's more like, can you get rid of can you get rid of the inconsistency? Can you get him looking like he's as comfortable and in control as the other two, Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye right now? The other fascinating conversation with that group of quarterbacks, I think, would be right now, if you could only have one and you were stuck with him for the next 5 years, would you take Spencer Rattler or J.J. McCarthy?
Oh, boy.
I think I'd take the Rat. I mean, what he's done in this situation, like talk about situation, like not a single soul. Also, I want to get a quick note on the draft community. I'm out on the draft community. I'm out on just community in general for the draft. I want one analyst's opinion and then another analyst's opinion. And I wish there was like a blind test, because I think I used to feel this a lot, like covering the draft more closely with PFF, but like I feel like the groupthink has kind of gotten out of control. Where like with the Caleb Williams being in this other tier, I feel like a lot of that is because you see some of the highlight stuff, you start to parrot some of the same verbiage everyone says about like out of structure stuff. He's got some homes to him, and then like all of a sudden, like you can't even get off this take because no one's like even trying to, really, because no one's making this. The draft community is not making these decisions with any weight. They're picking a talent out of a really pool of talent and like kind of mirroring the opinions of other people, unless they're trying to be contrarian for content. And it's like, you're not thinking about situation. You're not thinking about how he fits with the staff. And like what we've seen, like everyone talking about like reclamation projects and stuff with like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith before he wore silver and black. You like situation matters, and a lot of this stuff can change. Like if Sam Darnold, like let's just pretend this year, this was Sam Darnold's first year after he was drafted. People were like, holy shit, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. This looks insane. Oh my gosh. But like, I feel like with quarterbacks and like just like community think in general, like we don't know what these players are going to be until they get into the situation. And I think you almost need to like evaluate. Like we need to be evaluating things a little bit differently. And I don't know. I feel like overall though, go back to your question. I'm taking Rattler over JJ McCarthy simply because he's done it with some consistency in what I think is a pretty bad situation. And also like, I feel like he's getting better every single week. There's some competency to like, actually like not creating a ton of turnovers, not like falling pressure at the moment. He's been through like, talk about like a crazy maturation process, going from high school, like being like the biggest player on campus, and then going into college, having to transfer, then going from like projected number 1 overall pick to not being in that category at all, and going to a very bad Saints team. I don't know. I feel like how he's handled all of that, I think gives me an extra uptick as well.
Let me ask you, so we were talking a little bit about Baker Mayfield the other day and his sort of complete, he's almost become the player now that we expected him to be coming out of the draft as that number 1 overall pick, and a guy PFF was really pushing to the forefront. But let me ask you about the PFF part of that for a second. We're all now formerly of PFF, and we were all in that ecosystem for years. What parts of your sort of the way you look at things have you kept from PFF, and what parts have you dumped? Like you said before, you're not there where they used to be with running backs. And part of this was PFF, it sort of almost had to be seen as this monolith, right? Like we want to put forward the PFF way of thinking, even if you don't necessarily 100% agree with that. And that direction at times got taken in relatively silly directions.
You also didn't want to get bullied in the office if you had an outlandish running back take.
If you thought running backs might actually be okay.
Yeah, you didn't want that to happen.
There were years in my PFF days where like I had a dartboard with every running back in the league, and I was just like throwing at it every night, and I like wanted them. I feel like I've shifted off of that a little bit. But I guess it's a good question. I think I'm evaluating just like team situation a little bit differently. I feel like with PFF and like player grade specifically, I think a lot of the times you kind of like vacuum in on like this player sucks, this player's not good, and then like being able to like kind of see how like situation can change. And I think that's been like kind of the story of the league these last 5 years in terms of how much of like the middle tier of quarterbacks has been these guys that are reclamation projects and how much like players can change with situation. Also, I feel like evaluating quarterbacks like under pressure versus clean versus some of this other stuff. I feel like trying to bring stuff more holistically, looking at like downfield target stuff and all this stuff, I feel like has changed. Looking at receiver versus corner stuff has changed. I don't know. I feel like overall at PFF, I feel like I was still pretty young, still like learning a lot about even just like football and stuff like that. I think as like I've gotten older, I feel like trying to find just like more like football is such like a chemistry game and like how you play together, how you play under a coaching staff. Like, how is it the right timing with the offensive line, paying more attention to injuries? I think with draft analysis specifically too, I know like thinking a lot about like, don't draft for need ever, only look at value. I do think there is this kind of balance there that I don't know if I necessarily felt at PFF where it's like, no, you kind of need this player to come in to fix the situation you have now, even if it isn't as valuable. And I'm not talking about Ashton Jetty on the Raiders, obviously, but like, even if it doesn't if there's another, like a corner there that makes more sense or a tackle, but like you need to fix the interior defensive line. You need to fix these other things. I don't know. I feel like a lot of this too has just been like talking to people here at the Ringer that cover the NFL, but also talking to other people who are in the league, right? And talking about how they're thinking about things and how actually these decisions are made. I feel like having Eric Eager in the NFL and him still being a close friend has helped me kind of really understand how human the league is and how these decisions are made in like a very human way. And I feel like that helps you kind of grapple with like, just not like, not to be a total cliche, but like just like not evaluating everything in a spreadsheet with numbers and stuff like that and trying to actually like have conversations through like what needs to change and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's similar. Like the thing that I've taken from the PFF stuff is, context and sample size and like those things I think are still really important. Like everyone wants to go knee-jerk reactions based off 2 games. And you're like, come on, we've all been doing this long enough. We know 2 games it's not meaningless, but it's pretty close. Like anyone can have 2 good games. Anyone can have 2 bad games. You need a bigger sample size than that to have any real idea what you're doing. And then the other side, the stuff where I think PFF went wrong was we've got this new information. The data says one thing. So now like 100% that is the thing, right? Mm-hmm. We've decided that play in a clean pocket is more stable than play under pressure. Therefore, only focus on this. This is the only data point that's relevant. The rest of it, forget about it. Throw it away. Or never draft running backs early because, X, Y, and Z. I think you're right. Like, those are the things where they had a point to make. They made the point really hard. And actually, there are exceptions. There's times where it makes some sense. It's always a fuzzy line rather than a hard and fast, this is where you draw the line in the sand, we will go no further.
I think ultimately, like, there's more predictive stuff, and like I feel like we were talking about predictive versus volatile for a very long time, but I feel like not any of it is like truly predictive, and at the end of the day, you still need to be kind of evaluating a lot of just like what you see, and then also like how I think, again, like, why are these teams in these situations? I think you go back and watch some of these games and you're like, oh yeah, Charvarius Ward left that game with a concussion or whatever, or wasn't able to play. And like some of this like context that you pick up by just like kind of taking yourself back out and looking at the games a little bit more closely, I feel like makes sense.
Yeah, I'm back and forth on a lot of that stuff. I think there's still a lot of predictive there, but anytime, the sample size thing, the 1 game thing, the injuries, I was making the point the other day, Austin, some of the injury reports for teams are insane right now. And the Chiefs are like, oh, everybody's completely healthy. Rashee Rice is coming back. We're great.
Yeah.
They're as healthy as any team. It's like, if you can, I don't even know if you can, do that as an organization, like have the best staff at keeping people healthy or whatever. But man.
But also,
that's
like
the
such
Niners
a huge
don't.
component.
The Niners definitely.
The Niners don't have that.
It's also the conversation
I
that nobody really wants to have, which is every year is almost sort of, we do all this stuff, ranking teams, power rankings, like who's going to do this, all the stats, and ultimately the only data point that actually matters is who's going to get the most banged up over the course of the year, because that team's not winning the Super Bowl. And then whoever's really healthy come January, they've got a pretty good shot. Like that's the data point that actually has the biggest correlation to anything, and it's the one thing you can't predict, so we can't really talk about it.
It's kind of crazy. I've been watching. I feel like I was very football pilled for a long time, and I've been watching more sports, and it's kind of crazy just watching like baseball playoffs and stuff. And obviously there are injuries in baseball. Cool. There's injuries in the NBA, but like every single week, you're missing like 2 or 3 important guys. Like unless you're the Chiefs right now or whatever, like every single, and like, this doesn't even bring up like with the Niners, they don't have Fred Warner, they don't have Nick Bosa. The Chargers have been without Rashawn Slater all year. The Falcons are without Caleb McGarry all year. Like there are other the Bengals are without Joe Burrow until probably the end of the year. I feel like then you get into the week to week and it's like, oh man, Brock Bowers is out again. Oh no, Tarvarius Ward got concussed in pregame warmups. Like every single week you are battling and inserting new starters and all that stuff. And that's when it comes back to like some of the most consistent stuff you can control is looking at the staff, head coach specifically, and trying to think like, okay, like who's going to be able to like handle these situations. I remember trying to like handicap the Packers last year when they lost Jordan Love at the beginning of the season. They had the whole Sao Paulo thing. It's like, oh, you're bringing Malik Willis. Is this now the worst team in the league? And how LaFleur was able to handle that transition from Love to Willis is a bigger, like, is way more like signal that like, okay, this team has it. This team can go through adversity. Those are the kind of signs that you need to pick up for these teams if you're trying to like bet them on paper to go win the Super Bowl or go the distance.
The chat's requesting that Sam and I become guests on Ringer podcast now. Like, do you think Bill would have us on? Like, can you?
I can make some moves. I don't know if you guys saw the Netflix news yesterday. So if you, with the Ringer's now going to have a ton of podcasts on Netflix. So maybe by the time we're on Netflix, we can get you guys in there.
Nice, congratulations.
Okay, we'll be in negotiations, maybe even.
There you go.
You should call 33rd Team. Maybe we're for sale. You could get us on Netflix with the group. You never know. What else are we talking about here today?
I'll pull some strings.
What are we asking if Big Time Throws is a good name?
No, because we know it isn't.
Big Time Throws, good name or not good name?
So it's funny that I work with the Ringer Fantasy Football guys, and they had this conversation.
Yeah, I addressed it. Listen, Austin, I addressed it head on. All right. If they're gonna attack me from Dublin, from across the pond, I had to address it.
2 things can be true. Big Time Throws is not that bad. Big Time Froze is so funny. It's just so funny. When you say Big Time Froze as like a kid, it just really does work. I feel like it just is really funny. I think that Big Time Throws, there's some other stats out there, like there's like super throws or some bullshit. Like everyone's been trying to like figure out how do you like put a number to these like low percentage, tight window, great throws or whatever. Yeah. And I feel like Big Time Throws is not that bad. It's not, amazing, but it's not that bad. It's not like, I think turnover worthy plays is like great. But then when someone thinks it kind of sounds like a kid made it up and they say Big Time Throws, it's really funny. And I think you just have to get
your friends made a funny, Austin. Yeah, they made a funny when they all got together and dragged Greg into it too.
I know. I wasn't ready for Rosenthal to quickly turn too. His side was clear. I thought he was going to be a defender.
There wasn't much dragging involved. He was all too keen to jump on.
You could tell Greg was sitting on that for a while here,
which tells you all you need to know about it.
There's we are in a golden age of EPAs and people trying to replicate the same. Everybody's like, there's got to be 10 different EPA numbers out there right now.
Yeah,
and everybody has their own, and they're directionally pretty good, but like the scales are all different. Like they're all pretty different, the EPA numbers out there.
I do like that as a thing. Like everyone just talks about EPA as a constant, and yet
they're all different.
It's totally arbitrary.
Yeah.
Who's decided? Right. Everything like that's the thing.
Even success rate, you have some EPA based. You have some
based off what definition?
Like it's all yeah.
But that goes to some of the PFF conversation because I know Sam and I in particular would soften the conversation as we got older and say, look, here's this number. And the complaint is everybody thinks it's gospel, and we're like, well, we don't think it's gospel, right? We think it's a piece of the puzzle, and it's context driven, and it's a small sample. We would soften the blow, but it's almost like the way people interpret things. And if they present it in a certain way, then it's like, oh, PFF thinks this, or you think this is the only thing, and it's like you're changing the conversation because of the messenger, so to speak, right?
PFF was always chasing better numbers, not necessarily like absolute definitive gospel numbers, right? And I think EPA is a better number than what. Think about freaking passer rating. Passer rating might be the dumbest stat ever. It is legitimately ridiculous. It does not make any sense. They're throwing weights around for no reason. It doesn't have an appropriate scale. You'll have people still parroting like passer rating, like, oh well, he's had a passer rating over 105 in 5 straight games. I don't even know what the fuck that means. And like it's like that's so skewed by like touchdowns and picks, these volatile things. Oh, a batted interception ends up becoming like this lower passer rating, where it's like I feel like success rate gets us to a better spot. I think EPA, I think even passing grade for PFF is a better number than passer rating. I feel like what PFF was trying to do is in a very complex sport with 11 people aside doing a ton of different shit, make a better number, a better number than what you currently have. And obviously with quarterback, there were a lot of numbers being thrown out and you're trying to improve on that. And it's the most important position. But like where a lot of these numbers, I feel like, and people lean on these across the board, offensive line, defensive line, corners, where you just like, what are you going to do? Highlight a corner's tackle numbers like we were doing in like the early 2000s? It really was like, it really was like a chase. It was a chase to define some of these things better, never to get to a point where like, this player is this number and all that stuff. Which that's what marketing does. You're trying to move things around. You got to kind of like kind of be black and white.
That's the problem. It's like you come up with something better, and in an attempt to sort of say this is the better number, we should be using this. You end up coming across as if this is the thing. This is definitive. Yeah. Like passer rating, as you said, is ridiculous. Particularly if you're applying it just to a quarterback. It's more the passing attack as a whole, right? Because receivers are a part of it, the offensive line is a part of it, and everyone's like, so use EPA instead. Now all the nerds are like, EPA is the stat. EPA is basically just passer rating adjusted for situation. Like it's kind of the same thing, just slightly better. But everyone's like, EPA is the thing. Let's judge all our quarterbacks by EPA. Let's use adjusted EPA. Each one is incrementally better, but it's still just a thing. It's not everything. It's
PFF plus EPA tells a pretty good story because there are some holes in both that I think cover each other. Anyway,
plus, what is the completion
CPOE?
Rate above expectation? Yeah. You see, I think
I'm not in on that.
It also when you like sort by EPA per dropback, I feel like what's helpful is like you generally get like a lot of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I feel like the names always look good. You're always like, oh, okay, like this kind of tracks with what I'm seeing, and that kind of makes sense to me. I like dropback success rate a lot too to kind of understand some of the Baker Mayfield, for example, is like 11th or 12th in dropback success rate, but like 4th in EPA per dropback with some of that, where like his explosives are kind of taking his overall EPA numbers up and stuff like that. Sometimes comparing the two, but I feel like also just going back and watching like dropbacks under pressure, dropbacks clean, dropbacks on third down, some of that stuff. I feel like that's where like trying to evaluate. It depends on what you're trying to evaluate and stuff. But yeah,
I'm told I think for the social media, Austin, we need to get your hot seat rankings for NFL head coaches. Do you have a full ranking here?
Well, this is his thing.
I don't
Austin
have a full ranking.
Give me a listicle. Who's on the hot seat?
Okay.
You are an official audience engagement manager. This is your profession.
True.
So we've got to get your expert take.
I have to engage
our audience. Engage our audience.
We got
please.
Ryan Callahan got fired. That's the hottest of the hot seats.
And
that hot seat got so hot.
His dad's out too. Yeah.
In support, in solidarity with him.
I respect that.
Yeah,
we were having a conversation on the fantasy pod about like, does he stay? Does he stick around? There's just no shot. I mean, if they fire your son, you got to get out of there.
I was thinking it would be kind of funny if they named him the interim head coach.
I just don't think he would accept it.
No,
I feel like that's just absurd. That's just gonna be on his that's on fucking your son's Wikipedia page forever. Got fired and your dad replaced
his son.
Horrible.
Went 6-2.
I still feel like it was under discussed that Scott Turner, the OC for the Raiders, I think last year, it feels like decades, but like, and then they brought in his dad to sit with him in the booth last year to help him out. That was insane.
That was crazy.
You never want your dad have to come into the mix as someone who's trying to like not be the nepo hire that you figures it out. But
it's not a great sign.
No, it's not a good sign when your dad needs to come in. But okay, my hot seat rankings. Brian Callahan out, had to go. Right.
Yeah.
I mean I'm not like the biggest betting guy, but his against the spread record was like 3-19 or 3-20 when he got let go.
It's like the same as his regular record.
It's so hard to do that. But, the gambling tries to make it 50-50 with these spreads. They're trying to evaluate your team, and the Titans are like 9-point dogs, 11-point dogs, 8-point dogs against all these teams, and like he's just not even covering the number. And it was. I feel like a pretty big reflection of just him not maximizing what he had there. He had to go. Mike McDaniel, I think, has to be the hottest seat right now. Tua Tagovailoa. I thought your take on it, Sam, on the recap pod of like, how is Tua Tagovailoa calling out leadership when you are the quarterback of the football team? And I think Mike McDaniel kind of quietly pantsed him in his response, and he's like, "I'm getting the players that I'm leading are meeting expectations. I don't know what the fuck Tua's talking about with his like 16th player-led meeting this year. He's like, Tua's like, we need to meet again. We need to meet after this loss. Let's go watch some tape at 6 a.m. on Saturday." And they're like, "No, we're not doing that because you suck." Tua Tagovailoa does not realize how ridiculous those comments were. They were like, I don't know what he thought he was doing by saying we need the coach to help me get players to come to my player-led meetings. Like, it was so bad. But I think Tua should be on the hot seat too, but Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat. It feels like an untenable situation. I don't think Mike McDaniel wants to be with Tua anymore. I don't know if Tua wants to be with Mike McDaniel. Tyreek's out of the mix. I feel like he's at number one. Number two, I think is a harder conversation because you don't really know. Like, I don't think Aaron Glenn, it's been bad. And I feel like Fields has been really bad after like what was like kind of a shocking week one against the Steelers. I think since week one, it's like the worst offense in the league by a lot. He had negative 10 passing yards last week or whatever it was. It was really bad. But I don't know with Aaron Glenn, like, can you fire him after his first year? Is it a Fields problem?
I don't think he's handling like they can do that.
Yeah, probably. Maybe he's two. I had Mark Daboll as three. That's one of Brian Daboll's sons because I think Jackson Dart could be in the mix for coming in for the family. I think how much Brian Daboll loves Jackson Dart right now, chasing him into the medical tent, locking him with his. I feel like, and obviously the analysis is kind of simple in that like this kid's saving your job because if he wasn't playing well, it'd be the easiest. He'd be number one on this list probably in terms of hot seat. But now that Jackson Dart is playing well, I thought it was kind of hilarious that he tried to scramble into the medical tent and then like was clearly furious at the third-party medical person who's like trying to evaluate if he can, one of the most important injuries in the NFL right now, a concussion, trying to evaluate if he can come back in the game, and him being furious about it, I feel like is not a good look for the league. But I don't know. I could see him being on the hot seat. I wanted to bring it to you guys. These are two other names. John Harbaugh with the Ravens, which obviously are in a weird situation, but I don't know. Some of this end of game stuff, like I feel like some of the fourth down decision making, there are times where I'm just like, what is he actually maximizing this team? And then Pete, I don't want to put him out to pasture here too early, and they're probably not going to fire him because I don't think Mark Davis wants to pay another coach. The Raiders have hired and fired more head coaches in the league than any other team since the year 2000. That doesn't count, hiring and firing John Gruden twice. I don't know if he wants to do it again on Pete, but I feel like Harbaugh and Pete are both in situations where, I don't know, but Pete more so because it's obviously new. But let's start with Harbaugh. Do you guys feel like Harbaugh is the seat even warm at all, or are we just giving him a pass in perpetuity, I guess?
I think his seat should be fine. Number one, I think they're going to pull out of this. Like the fact that they're only narrow second favorites of that division, even though there's like that massive swing between them and Pittsburgh, I think tells you that they're probably not going to be bad this season. They're probably going to come out of this to some degree. It's just, rough start, injuries, all that kind of thing. If they pull out of it, even if they go like, 9 wins this season, he should be fine. Like he's had insane success for years. And then one bad year where you can put a lot of it down to injuries. That should not be a blip on his resume. That's different to the conversation of like, is he maximizing what they've had, or should Harbaugh have done better in addition to Lamar Jackson? And like, is there a general playoff problem within Baltimore? I think that's a different
That
answer.
is the question, though, right? I mean, it's not just this year with John Harbaugh.
But this isn't like Mike Shanahan back in Denver, where you're like, okay, 2-time Super Bowl champion, but that was a while ago now, and now the last few years were like 9 and 7. We've become Jeff Fisher.
I think it's different because, I think John Harbaugh's got a pretty good track record, won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. They've been consistent, but you could also say that's a good roster. It's a good roster year in, year out. It's one of the best front offices, and you have an elite quarterback. Yeah. And the more we've learned about elite quarterbacks as they get separated from their head coach, that they're the bigger driver of success. So it's like one of those college teams that wins 10 games. It's like Penn State getting rid of James Franklin. Like James has done a great job for a decade, but you're trying to take that next step. Is the grass greener? It's like a fair question that like, could anyone step in and take Lamar to 12 wins every year? but who's the guy that's going to get them over the? I never even broached this question until recently.
I mean, I think there are guys where it gets stale, right? And those guys, even if they have a great resume, they become Jeff Fisher in the back years, and that's 9-7, and nobody wants that. And after a few years of that, you're like, okay, enough. We're going somewhere else. I don't feel like Harbaugh's there. I think he's better than that. Like at this, even now with the underachieving, it's still a higher baseline.
And you want to get, and you think Pete.
Well, let me stick on Harbaugh for a second because I feel like let me pivot because I think I'm ultimately with you guys too. They're not going to fire him after this year. That'd be insane. His seat is like if it's warm, it's faintly warm. He just farted or something. I don't think it's warm at all. But let's say Lamar Jackson turns 29 in January. Obviously, about some injuries. As you could argue once you turn 30, as someone who just turned 31, it's going to be harder for him to move. Let's just say that. If he doesn't win, if he doesn't go to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, do you give him another quarterback and you run it back with Harbaugh and try and do it again? Or is there like a certain amount of like failing this Lamar Jackson era, right? Which I think I'm not saying it's going to end at 30 or whatever, but like let's say the next 4 or 5 years, you don't go to a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. I don't know. Is this not going to be looked at as just like kind of like a pretty big failure for Harbaugh and this Ravens team, who's been like, yes, for the last 5 years, like every single betting market is looking at them as like one of the top teams in the AFC, should be competing with the Bills and the Chiefs, and just never getting over the hump. I don't know. I feel like I would be pretty wary of the Lamar Jackson era is ending, and you're committed to Harbaugh into like another quarterback situation.
You just ended the Lamar Jackson era because you turned 31 and he's 29 and he's injured right now.
No, I'm not.
Is that what you just did?
I'm not ending it at 30. I'm saying how many more like prime Lamar Jackson years do we even have left?
But that's the judge, right? 4? He becomes like, instead of if the Harbaugh tenure ends, it's going to end the Marty Schottenheimer way, not the Jeff Fisher way, right? Not the Mike Shanahan way. Like, he's not going to reach a point where there's a bunch of sort of stagnant seasons and you're like, okay, fine. He's going to reach a point where it's like, there's only so many times you can be the best regular season team, run into the playoffs, and shit the bed. And that's when you're going to go. Like, Marty Schottenheimer was fired after like a 12-win season
14.
Or whatever. 14-win season, right.
Yeah.
The number one seed. And then they're like, okay, fine, that's enough. This is just not going to work. That's what's going to do John Harbaugh, and eventually it'll be another MVP dominant Lamar Jackson season that go into the playoffs and get rickrolled by the Texans or something. And at that point they're like, okay, fine, that's it.
I could see it.
Scott Turner's dad took over for Brian Schottenheimer.
That's good. That's good to know. For Pete, I don't know what you do about Pete. I feel like if he wants to coach again next year, you have to kind of say yes. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you do.
We need your Belichick takes here while you're here.
Yes. Oh, I have them.
Okay, yeah. Just let's unleash when you hire somebody in their 70s. The first question is like, okay, is he here for the next 3 or 4 years? That's the first question.
Which I assume was a yes to even go there.
Yeah, and I saw Pete as like let's reset the culture. Let's tee it up for the next guy, because I still look at the West. Obviously, the Chiefs are there. The Chargers are looking good. The Broncos are looking good. You got to be realistic. You're not going to beat those teams in that division. You want to tee it up for the next guy. Pete's a great culture transition guy. But when they struggle right off the bat, Belichick, Pete, and they're in their 70s, it's like, okay, now we're getting worse before we get better, and we got to dig out of this, and you're in your 70s. Yeah. That's the question I have. But I liked it at the time as like a culture crossover to the next coach 2 or 3 years from now. And the idea being, okay, by then, hopefully we could compete with the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos. But it's not going
there. No, I liked it initially, too. I feel like for all the same reasons. Oh, he's going to come in as a culture reset. Maybe he's setting up Chip Kelly to be the future. Oh, this offense is going to take the league by storm. I was sipping a lot of Kool-Aid in the offseason. And I think now, like, Geno Smith is under contract that gave him that extension through next year. Like, you can't really get out of that contract.
That's the problem. That's the
2026,
biggest mistake they've made.
Are you committed to Pete and Geno again? And if that's the case, I need to see way better play on special teams, way fewer turnovers from Geno Smith. Like, this needs to get corrected, right? And I'm not talking even being competitive in these games. I'm even being competitive in the AFC West. I bought into this team thinking that the floor was going to be higher. But then you look at, like, getting blown out by Mariota and the Commanders, like a couple weeks ago, like, and not looking competitive against teams that like feel like winnable games. Even in that Bears game, that was a winnable game. You end up losing on special teams and with bad mistakes, right? Mistakes that like should plague a younger team that isn't in the middle of this culture reset. I feel like this Titans game is one win over arguably the worst team in the NFL. They just fired their head coach. They got the Chiefs next week and then the bye. I feel like this year, unless they start to look competitive against teams maybe they shouldn't be, and you start to limit some of these mistakes, it's going to be hard to like just swallow that. Okay, we're going to do 35-year-old Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, the oldest coach ever to coach in the league again. I don't even know necessarily if I believe in the personnel department and who's going to bring in guys. Like if we're making decisions still and looking at the roster and being like, yeah, let's bring in Ashton Genty, Jack Besh in the second round, who couldn't even get the start over 5th round pick Deontay Thornton. And then Thornton, who was the preseason, everyone loved him in the preseason, ends up getting benched this past week for Jack Besh. Jack Besh barely makes a difference. Like I feel like they made luxury picks in the draft. I don't necessarily understand why you didn't upgrade the offensive line in free agency. I worry that this Pete Geno experience is actually going to be a lot like all the experiences that have been in Oakland, Las Vegas for the last like 20 plus years.
I feel like the big question is how willing is Pete to move off Geno Smith? Because that looks like it's going south in a hurry.
It was the second time, just to not harp on it too much, the second time in 4 years I think the Raiders should have or could have looked around the division and said, we're not there yet. We are team 4 out of 4 in the AFC West. Rebuild the whole thing. We brought in John Spytek. We've got a draft and develop GM now. And just like when they doubled down on Derek Carr and traded for Devontae Adams and said, let's compete right now, they said, let's go get Geno Smith and compete right now. And I'm with you. Like I thought it would work. I thought they'd be competitive, 7-8 win team. They'd be feisty. They'd be a tough out, tough division. But when you're the 4th best team in the division, clearly you should probably think to 2026 or 27, which is what we said on our Fixing Every Team in 5 Minutes last March. Like 2026 is the year for the Raiders to be pointed toward, and they said, no, we're going to be competitive this year, and it's not working.
Yeah, it's tough.
But that's the thing. I don't think it was necessarily a crazy idea. Like we all love what they did to the floor, and okay, sure, it's probably not going to be enough to contend with the Chiefs or other elite teams, but they should be feisty and competitive. And Geno's played like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. It's been a disaster, and they gave him that extension. So to me now, the Pete Carroll thing just comes down to how willing are you to throw Geno under the bus and say, you know what, I loved him. He did great things for me in Seattle, but he's played himself out of the job now in here, and we need to go in a different direction.
All right. I just don't even know if they can get out of that contract. It's tough. Like, can you move on from Geno ahead of next year? I don't even know. It's tough. It's going to be weird. I think something that gets underrated with the Raiders is, again, they have like a middle of the pack defense with Caillou, Blue Kelly, Eric Stokes, and Darnay Holmes as the starting corners. Isaiah Palmal, Jeremy Chin at safety. Linebackers are old retreads. Landon Roberts. Jamal Adams is playing linebacker. Devin White. The fact that Pat Graham has the defense even playing at like a moderately solid level is, I feel like, another tip of the cap to, I feel like, a very underrated
5th straight year we've said that, right?
Yeah, he's good. He's really
overachieving defense. All right, what's going on at North Carolina?
Nothing good, man. No, I feel like I'm reading every piece of content I can get on the Bill Belichick stuff. I also went back and scrolled through the Instagram to remember the one where Bill was holding up Hudson. Yeah. So what I didn't realize in that scroll back is obviously everyone's seen the photo. A couple days later, Big Hudson posts the video of her getting on there. Belichick is fighting for his life.
It's awful.
Getting her on his legs. He is trembling. They're like his legs are literally trembling. I don't understand why she's putting him through this.
No, that is like the best example of, the Instagram moment being a complete moment, not even a moment in time. Like they find the one frame from that, 45-second video where Belichick does not look like he is drowning in this situation. They've find the one frame and perfect, nailed it.
I think it's a very good comparison though to what UNC Belichick is. The picture when he's holding his dad's hoodie and he's like, "I'm coming to UNC. I'm here to really establish the program." Everyone's excited. But on paper, in the picture, Bill Belichick going to college football, one of the best coaches of all time. Oh my gosh, the mismatch he's going to have on the sidelines, all this stuff. And then you actually watch the video, which they're canceling at Hulu, by the way. No more documentary. I wonder why. You actually go watch the tape and it's like, oh, wait a second. This guy's one of the oldest coaches ever in a, like finding his muse at like 24 years old or however old she is, wrapped up in all of the whatever copyrights and all this stuff that he's trying to do, all this content that he's trying to do, going to a college football that like has completely changed. Completely changed, where you're no longer like the recruiting has completely changed, NIL stuff, how you need to bring these players in, how you should be treating players, transfer portal risk, all that stuff. Like, and he's just completely botched it. It sounds like, just reading some of the reports and talking to people who like follow college football a little bit more closely than I do, it's just completely fell on his head in terms of helping the players get to a spot where they need to be, actually paying attention to like bringing these people up. I know that the Michael Lombardi has the typewriter and he's taking all those notes. It just the optics, I feel like, are worse than I could have even expected. And I don't know necessarily.
Typewriter is the least of his concerns, but yeah.
I feel like the sad part, or not the sad part, I do think that you can't let this affect his Patriots legacy. I hope. I don't think you can, or like just like his legacy as a coach, but it's a tough way to go out, right? It's a tough way to go out. I think at the end of the day, maybe when you turn like 72, 73, it's just a good time to kind of like settle back and not necessarily push the limits as one of the most high profile positions in sports.
It's obviously been a disaster. I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they play better in the second half. I don't know how many wins they get, but like his coaching and, because it's easy to do the hot take stuff right now because they're probably the worst Power 4 team. They're getting outscored by 30 a game against Power 4 teams. But like if they just played better in the second half of the season, and they've got something like 40 high school recruits committed, like you're supposed to bring in 25, and they're saying we're going to go super young, which again doesn't mesh with his age. So it's interesting because I think it could get better. But everything to this point has been an absolute. I mean, it should get better because it's been rock bottom. It's been such a disaster. But if they played better, and then they have like hope by November, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we got 40 recruits coming in, things are going to be great. Don't worry about it.
I guess I don't know. I'm wondering like if they like how committed he is. Like I'm reading some of the stuff about like interested in a buyout and looking for something a little bit cushier. I don't know. Like if he's like if it's going to get better, it needs to be like a level of commitment from him and the staff that I feel like you're just not seeing in some of these like leaked quotes and stuff, where it just seems like there isn't that same Belichickian.
The Patriots for the leaks. They're blaming the Patriots for like, how do they know it's so bad here at UNC? How do people know? It's like you're losing by 30 to every single team with a pulse. Of course we know it's bad there. It's not tough.
Also, they're making it like the top priority is to find who's leaking this stuff. It's like,
that's it.
The top priority.
You got to find the leakers.
You need to like redefine what your approach is here at UNC because it's clearly not working. I did not expect Jordan Hudson to be on the sidelines as much either. Like it could not be a bigger, like, it's just bad optics. Like, and like, that's why I feel like some of this hot take stuff is so easy. It like looks so bad. Yeah. You tried to do a documentary and then you stopped it. You tried to file for copyrights of all this bullshit. You have this 24-year-old girlfriend who's like 50 years younger than you. And she's not just like everyone knows about her. She's in our face all the time. Like it's bad. And then
wait till TMZ gets a hold of all the footage.
Like,
and not in the like, Taylor Swift way where it's like a zoom lens finding her in a luxury box somewhere in the seventh row. Like she's on the sideline talking to Belichick during the game and has herself like installed as, lead producer and, executive positions. Like she has put herself front and center. It's not the same as someone who just happens to be associated with this.
She might be in line for Time Person of the Year or something. Like she's had a good year for her
it's been a great year for
the public spotlight.
I was looking for comps with the relationship, and I feel like people forget that Pablo Picasso at 70 plus started dating I think she was like 28, not as low as Hudson. And they ended up being together for like 20 plus years. And it was like kind of a very huge, it was a great relationship for Picasso and her. But I feel like when you get that old and you take that age gap on, I feel like trying to be as quiet about the relationship as possible is probably a good idea. I feel like it's been the complete opposite. It's like she's like the content machine that's driving a lot of this stuff, and I don't know. It's kind of unfortunate. The Instagram, it starts with the Instagram, and I think the fish, him being the fisherman and her being the fish, I thought was cute. I feel like when you start asking a 73, 74 plus year old man to like do gymnastics on the beach, I think that's where I feel like it takes a line.
Gymnastics is when it went down.
That was the line. That was the line is between those two photos on Instagram. The fish thing, that's fine.
When that photo came out, I sent in Ringer Slack, this is the best photo that's ever existed. I pitched an article at the Ringer. It was called "The Range of Outcomes for Bill Belichick," and it was this whole unimodal chart of like, oh, he goes to his daughter's lacrosse team and coaches it to like 3 national championships. He is a defensive coordinator for this team for like 5 years. It is amazing, like Dick LeBeau era. I did not have this on my range of outcomes. No. I did not have him dating a 24-year-old, going to UNC, his dad's alma mater, and saying all this bullshit. It's trying to start a documentary and it going up in flames. I did not. It was not in my bingo card.
I don't think anybody had this. Like this is they found an outcome within the range of outcomes that literally nobody had predicted.
Yeah, it sucks.
Legendary run here, as you had, and still are having, Austin. Do we have to let him go? It's been 50
I think so.
minutes. Yeah. All right. What are you doing now?
Might get some coffee. Or no. What am I doing now? Audience engagement manager at the Ringer. Working on the Ringer Fantasy Football Show and some other podcasts as well. Writing a little bit here and there. You know, rooting on the Raiders every week, regardless. My buddy every week. We're born Raiders fans. He's like, "Is this the week we stop? Should we just stop? Should we just pick a different team?"
Have you ever done
I've never considered
face paint and shoulder pad thing like Rick did? Did you ever get? Maybe that's what you need.
I did do a shoulder pads thing when I was a kid. I don't know if I ever did the face paint though. I was a season ticket holder.
They need fans.
For like 10 years.
They need hardcore fans like you to paint their face, and maybe that'll work.
Have you got?
What sucks is they have the most expensive tickets in the NFL now. With Vegas has the most expensive tickets, and then like to go to Vegas, it's like I'm gonna fly into Vegas. I gotta get this hotel. It's so hard.
We'll get you a room at Circa. We'll save you some money there.
Cool.
Have you got any more articles coming out along the lines of I watched 17,000 of these movies consecutively, so you don't have to, and now I'm going to write about them? Because I really enjoy those, not because of the content, but because it's a window into just how absolutely insane you are. That's the way I enjoy those articles. I don't actually get an awful lot from reading about 1,700 80s B movies, but the fact that you actually went and watched them all is what I enjoy.
Nothing on the books right now, though. I do want to rank every single Liam Neeson kill in every movie he's ever been in, which I know would be like a very, very hard feat. But I am like a big Neeson fan.
Have you watched? What's it called? In the Land of Saints and Sinners? Is that what it's called? You should watch that one. That's a relatively recent Neeson one, and there's some good killings in that one. You'll like that.
That's where your mind has gone.
I did see his Ice Road and then Ice Road 2.
I watched those too. Those are pretty funny.
A true treat. I like a shitty action movie.
I watched the first one of those on Netflix when I was stuck somewhere bored, and I could not. It blew my mind that I then came across a sequel. I was like, how is there a second movie of this after the first one?
You should rank Arnold
movies. There's no road in the sequel.
No.
You should rank Arnold movies
Ice
from
Road
the 80s.
2, no road.
Well, there's no ice road. It's just a road that's somewhere near ice, right? It was in the mountains somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Rank Arnold movies from the 80s? I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I do love Arnold. I also love Seagal.
Yes. Seagal's got some bangers. They're some fun. Yeah. In fact, ranking the humorous ways that Steven Seagal finds to beat people up would be pretty good. Like one of the funniest ones ever.
Fighting style.
One of the funniest ones ever was when he beat the snot out of a guy with a pool ball in a sock, I think, and just like smacked the guy silly. That would be pretty funny.
Ranking Steven Seagal weapons, I could use that as a sub.
Exactly. There you go.
Well, glad we could give you some content ideas. Go check it out over at The Ringer. Austin, tell Bill we're ready to join the show at any time.
Okay.
And we appreciate you joining us, man, giving us all this time at 6 a.m. your time.
Hey, of course. No problem. Anytime. Any 6 a.m. time. I'm always open.
We have Renner in studio every now and then. So, when people still yearn for the tailgate days with you and Renner.
A lot of them
still ask.
I know.
All the
every
time
I do any content, I get like 4 or 5 DMs, 1 or 2 DMs that are like, hey, you should do another. I know. I miss it too.
Hope you get more again for this one. So thanks, man. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
See you guys.
Take it easy.
The late Austin Gayle.
Formerly of PFF,
currently of The Ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Man, fun discussion. It's like it was like being in the office again.
Just like being in
we
the
used
office.
to sit relatively. You and I sat across from each other, and he was like,
To my right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the next bank of desks over.
a lot of fun through the years. Any, you can talk about anything. It's great.
Yeah, he can. I mean, talk extensively and extremely fast about anything.
Yeah. I think it sounds more authoritative when he does
Just
it like that.
rattle it off quickly.
Yes, it makes it sound like you know what you're talking about. All right, we're about an hour in. We got a lot to get to. One of those shows. FanDuel's getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can bet $5 get $300 in bonus bets if you win. So that's right. You pick a bet, you bet $5. If it wins, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You could build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines. Whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season's here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You can visit FanDuel.com/CTM to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com/CTM. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Today we got a Thursday night football prop bet. Over here in Cincinnati, Bengals quarterback Joe Flacco, his over-under, Sam, for passing yards, 238.5 passing yards against this Steelers defense. Thursday night football, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, couple 40-year-olds. Flacco's 40, right?
Yep.
238.5. What do you think on this one?
238.5. Man, I don't have a ton of confidence in either one of these quarterbacks putting up numbers in this game. My initial instinct is absolutely under for this.
Flacco, 219 last week on 45 passing attempts.
Yeah.
A couple nice throws in there. He is given. The thing is, in any given game,
Jamar Chase could put up 90 of them on one play.
On a slant,
right,
or a screen. Chase could crush this thing at any given point. I'm going to go over. I'm just going to say over. I think the Bengals might surprise on Thursday Night Football.
Okay.
On the short week. I'll go over the 238.5. You guys can join in as well. FanDuel.com/CTM.
That was a name we didn't mention for the hot seat, is Zach Taylor.
I'm of the mind, and again, it happens in college football a lot here, where there's a coach who's done a really good job, but the fans want more, right? And you haven't won the championship. You haven't done the big thing. And I think the NFL equivalent is you have an elite quarterback. You've had success when you have that elite quarterback healthy. That's John Harbaugh. That's Zach Taylor. But there's this next step that you want. And I think it's fair to ask, not can anybody, win 10 games with Joe Burrow as the quarterback? Can anybody do it with Lamar Jackson? But can you put somebody in there without crushing the team? Right.
There's
I
also
think it's
a
a fair
world
question for Taylor in Cincinnati, and that's why I'm at least broaching the John Harbaugh thing. Like, would you say the same thing about Sean McDermott with the Bills? Like, if they had another heartbreak in the playoffs, do they make that move? I'm just saying those are fair questions. When you have the elite quarterback and you have that high baseline as a starting point, you're able, I think, to take a chance and upset things a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also a world now where we're constantly trying to work out how much of the success is the coach, how much of it is the quarterback, and how much of it is the unique combination of those two put together. I think Zach Taylor, the question of, well, how much of your success is just Joe Burrow, is way more pertinent than it is for John Harbaugh.
I would agree.
Yeah, and so consequently his seat should be hotter.
The counter to that, though, like Nick Sirianni and John Harbaugh, are they in the two best situations as far as front offices and roster building?
Right.
And that's a factor too.
Sure.
Right? Because that's why Eagles fans, when they're 2-2 last year coming off a bad year, it's like, oh, anybody can do this job. I don't believe that anybody can do the job. I'm just saying when the standards are that high, those questions are raised. Mm-hmm. All right, we've got a Wednesday update. We've got trade candidates. But right now, it's time for future award-winning Shouty Shows.
I've thought about it very deeply.
I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard.
I trust the backup quarterback more than I do Dak.
This is why Skip Bayless is the master of the Shouty Show segment.
I can't do it anymore. It is year 6.
It's just a never-ending arms race of idiocy between loud, obnoxious people. We are the antidote to that.
All right, I'm excited for Shouty Shows this week. We've got 5, it looks like, total. We've got 5. Let's start with the proposed trade for the Jets.
It is time for the Jets to acquire Shedeur Sanders from the Cleveland Browns. And someone tell me why that's a bad idea. And I don't want to hear about it's a circus. It's a circus? What's this? What the hell is this that we're watching? Circus! That's a circus. Bad, crappy football is a circus. The Jets should have drafted this guy, I don't know, second, third, fourth. They got a million opportunities to draft him. He has not gotten an opportunity in Cleveland. I don't really care about the Cleveland Browns, so I'm not going to fight their battles. I'll let Josina Anderson take care of that. All I'm saying is I see a talent, a guy I think we all talked about him as a guy that could at least be a serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL. They are not giving him a chance in Cleveland. If I'm Darren Muji, I call up my my contemporaries in Cleveland, and I say, here's a 5th-round pick back. Here's your 5th back. Let's get Shedeur in here, and let's see what the kid has got, because why not?
If he comes to the Jets, amidst all of this and all the issues that are going on already, and he's just the brash guy that he was, how does that make it any better?
What if he's good?
It doesn't matter if he's good.
It doesn't matter if he's good? Well, you can't believe that, Zeke. Of course it matters if he's good.
The only thing that will matter is if he wins.
Well,
it works if he wins.
Okay, hand in hand. What if he's good and a game like yesterday that they would have won with competent quarterback play, they win?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying it's very risky.
Here's what I disagree about with the risk. They're on a watchable mess right now with a lottery ticket that isn't working.
I laughed initially because the premise isn't actually the worst. Like, you've got the premise that we would, like, from a team building perspective, take shots on quarterbacks and this and that. But
Yeah, the premise, it's fairly laughable. The premise that you should try and find some answer at quarterback is fine. The premise that you should take a swing at, you try and trade for Shedeur Sanders based off basically no evidence that he's any different than he was at draft time is pretty crazy. Like, we've got one half of a preseason game. Like, this is based off basically a preseason performance against second stringers largely. And it's like, well, obviously he's totally different than the 5th rounder that he was a couple months ago. So let's give him their 5th back to you. Like, why not make the same argument for let's call up Pittsburgh and see if they'll take a 6th for Will Howard and put him in the starting lineup. Like, that's basically the same take. This is the only way this makes any sense whatsoever is I personally believe that Shedeur Sanders was worth a 1st or a 2nd round draft pick, and I saw some signs in preseason. Therefore, everybody else was wrong at draft time, and we should make this move.
Which we did believe he was going to go in the 1st. He didn't.
Which is fine. But the premise of this relies on the Jets also believing that they were wrong a couple of months ago because they didn't take him in the draft.
I guess the other part of it, I don't know, man. You've got Mike Tomlin questioning why the Cleveland Browns traded Joe Flacco to a division rival, and I'm like,
that was pretty unusual in terms of shade thrown somewhere else
at Andrew Berry.
Yeah,
and it just maybe it's because I'm not in the building, I'm not in the seat, I don't understand. We'll talk about Brian Callahan in a minute here. Like, the expectations for the Titans were bad, right? I like to think a year ahead, but like when you're there and you're watching it, like you're forced to watch your team lose, you're watching the Jets lose badly. It doesn't feel great, but fans tend to think about instant fixes. And Mike Tomlin suggesting, why would you give a division rival a quarterback? Because he's not going to start for us, and we get to move from this. We're going to move up about 50 spots in the draft. That's better for the Browns.
And he's not good.
Yeah,
like we had no fear of trading away Joe Flacco
because we signed him for nothing, and then we improved in the draft. That's a smart move by the Browns.
He's also like, why would you trade away a guy that you thought at the start of the season was good enough to lead your franchise? Like, yeah, but they didn't. They didn't go into this season thinking Joe Flacco. Like, at no point did they think that Joe Flacco would be starting the Week 17 game for this team.
Yeah, it's all where
he was a placeholder.
And so my point on this is, like, you can't be like, just Justin Fields just had 9 completions and 9 sacks. Fix it now. It's week 6 in the middle of a rebuild for the Jets.
In the chat, Just a Football Guy says Tanner McKee time. Now, that's a far more sensible idea. It would cost you more. The Eagles are not giving him up for a 5th-round pick, I wouldn't have thought.
I think the Shouty Shows are going to start calling
But, like,
for Tanner McKee.
That's a logical thing that I would have time for. The idea that Shedeur Sanders, just because he's a popular name that you know, is a fix is insane. And the Shedeur Sanders circus, I think, in the Jets, if he's not amazing immediately, would be
there is something too.
ridiculous.
It's not anything against Shedeur that like it's a circus or this or that, but like the fact that they're already calling for Aaron Glenn's job, I don't know if that would happen if he was the coach in Jacksonville or
no, it wouldn't.
Tennessee
Of course it
or
wouldn't.
Wherever else.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like the media market stuff makes an impact, even if A, it shouldn't, and B, it's not that guy's fault. So the Shedeur Sanders thing, you have to bring up the circus that comes along with him, even if you want to acknowledge that it's not his fault, right? The stuff that happened with when Rex Ryan is like ripping him for just existing, right? And then Shedeur tries to riff on that by doing the mime thing, and then people are like, oh, look at this immature joke of a guy. What's he doing? That whole circus doesn't happen for any other backup quarterback in the NFL. It just doesn't exist. So you have to bring it up as a factor because the Browns have to deal with that bullshit. Shedeur has to deal with that crap, right? It's a thing that exists that doesn't exist for other guys. And whether or not it's his fault is basically immaterial.
All right, we've got another proposed trade candidate for the Jets.
Dying there. He's being wasted talent. Garrett Wilson's career is like dying there. He's being wasted talent-wise. I've defended Justin a lot, and I don't think yesterday's performance is totally on Justin, but Garrett's open. Like Garrett's open on tape yesterday, and we like. My thing is this with dude, if it's man coverage, just throw the ball to him. I don't care what the route says. I don't care what the read says. If it's man coverage, throw him the ball. And we're like the final play of the game, throw him the ball. And so the Jets got a really difficult situation right now because it's not going well offensively. Here's the thing also. They paid the perimeter before they paid the front. Yep. Really. Like they paid Sauce and they paid Garrett. They're two really, really, really good players. I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to go about rebuild. I think they have to entertain trading everybody of value. Absolutely, because you're 0-7 or 0-6, and it doesn't look promising. Just don't know, Pat, when the player says it. Like if you're Garrett Wilson, you've done 5 or 6 years of this now.
Just signed a new deal.
He's paid now.
Just signed a new deal. Just signed a new deal.
I think that last point is the most salient point here, which is, I mean, look, if I'm the Jets, I'm not actually that interested in trading away a bunch of assets because I think most of the assets they've got that are of value, they've signed, they're young. Like the core is there for that team to be good pretty quickly if they can get things sorted in coach and quarterback. But the last point of Garrett Wilson's been going through this for a while now. How close to the brink is he in terms of saying, in terms of saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to trade. Because if you pass up the opportunity to trade him and then he forces your hand, now that's a bad situation.
Yeah, the first point, and we are really picking this apart, but the first point about, you're wasting his talent. Like nobody's sitting in there in the front office being like, man, we're really just wasting Garrett Wilson. Got to get rid of him. It's more like, well, we need to get a quarterback. We need to have our situation better, and then he's their only pass catcher. When the Jets, let's say the Jets draft a quarterback in the first round next year, then the next thing that we always do is say, what's the offensive line look like? Well, they've got 2 first-round tackles the last couple of years.
That's the thing. I don't agree with that take either.
Yeah,
they paid the perimeter in terms of Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, but they have 2 first-round picks in offensive tackles. They've got more invested in the interior. It's not like they ignored the trenches to pay those things. They've just invested that in a different way.
Yeah. But you're going to sit here a year from now and say the new quarterback needs a Garrett Wilson. And oh, by the way, we probably need 2 more pass catchers, right? We probably need 2 more good receivers to put with Garrett Wilson and a Mason Taylor at tight end before we feel good about this. You don't want to get rid of one and then have 3 pass catchers that you need a year from now when you have the new quarterback in. Again, guilty that I thought that the Jets would be more competitive this year, but we use the phrase range of outcomes a lot on this show. If you told me they were going to be 0-6 with a terrible passing attack this year, I would have said, yeah, of course. That's very possible. Justin Fields has never been a great passer. What I thought would make them more competitive was the run game, a dedication to it, some game flow stuff, And maybe defensively, the fact that they were going to be more volatile there, man coverage heavy, but their defensive front hasn't been great. Sauce hasn't been great. The whole defense hasn't been as good as I thought it could be. And then you just have like the procedural stuff, and they're just not playing well. So it's like we shouldn't be surprised that they're not playing well, and then say blow it all up.
Yeah, I mean there are times where I think there are times where I think it does make sense to blow it all up and reset and blah blah blah. I don't think the Jets is one. Like obviously it hasn't worked the way people thought it would, but I think the pieces you would be talking about trading away are pieces you want to have in future. And the only reason to trade them away is if they're going to force your hand and say, I am tired of this crap, get me out of here.
There is something to that. And if that is the case, you want to get multiple high draft picks and say, okay, we're getting real young these next few years and, hopefully replace a guy like Garrett Wilson. But right now, the Jets need him.
Next.
Oh, boy. Next one, Sam, is a hot take on our former employer.
Okay.
Get Mahomes quarterback 13 of 32 off my television screen. We're talking about legislation, what our kids shouldn't see at school, what they shouldn't be learning about. Like, should we have political ads on television? I want the PFF scores off the TV as bad as I want political ads off the television because, like, God forbid there's somebody watching the game who doesn't know who fucking Patrick Mahomes is.
Right.
They're going to be badly misguided, brother. 13th best quarterback in the league? I mean, if I was not Nandi, and maybe he earned it this year, but I would sue. I'd be in Chris Collinsworth's backyard, dude. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'd be at the window. You can't do that, dude.
That's Chris Long talking about the PFF grades appearing on Sunday Night Football. So we had this conversation off air last night, this morning, whenever the hell it was, talking about this exact thing. So I kind of agree with a lot of what he's saying. I think that was a huge win for PFF, getting their information out there on the biggest TV show in the world, in the country on a weekly basis. I do, however, think it was a rare L for Fred Godelli, the former producer of Sunday Night Football. I don't think it ever added much, and it never actually had the impact that PFF thought it might either, like driving huge amounts of traffic to the site and people signing up. It's kind of a contextless. It's the worst of PFF, right? It's like one number, a ranking that has no context attached to it, just thrown in your face as if you either don't take anything from it or the one thing you take from it is this is the 129th best player in the NFL or the 13th best player in the NFL, which is not what it's supposed to be showing you. So I don't think it's a good thing to have up there. From that perspective, I think Chris Long's right, actually. I would take it off the broadcast. Where I think he's wrong is that like it doesn't really matter if Mahomes is the 13th best player in the NFL or in 13th best quarterback. The grades are not supposed to be telling you that. They're supposed to be telling you that through 6 games or whatever, he's been 13th performance-wise. And you can debate whether that's true or not, but it's a different thing.
I agree with you on the point. I think it was probably better for us at PFF at the time. It was a big thing. Probably better for PFF than it was for Sunday Night Football.
If it did anything, if it did anything, it was a brand awareness play.
I would almost, maybe in hindsight, only highlight the positives, and we've gone through that. Look, I think I can understand the angst from players.
Sure,
right?
And even then, I mean, Fred was aware of this. Like he was very keen to make sure that certainly earlier in the season, there was a way of like not saying, a guy had a bad week 1, therefore he's the 129th best player in the NFL. Like he was aware of that risk, but I just don't think it's been a useful thing.
Now, the actual ranking, just to discuss the actual ranking, this was heading into week 6, so we had 5 weeks of games.
Yeah.
And we dealt with this years ago, and it's like you spend a lot of time trying to explain to people context. And that's your point, right? The broadcast doesn't have time to show context. There was Fred would always make a point. He would say, well, we're not going to show rankings after 2 weeks. We got to wait till week 3 or week 4. Right. One of the years, week 3 or 4, Richard Sherman had given up some catches in the first 2 or 3 weeks, and he was ranked like 110th at corner through 2 weeks, which is already a volatile position. Mm-hmm. And through 2 or 3 weeks of games, that much more.
Yeah.
And the initial reaction, are you telling me there's 107 corners you would take over Richard Sherman? Like,
no.
Nope.
Right.
No one would. Are you telling me there's 12 quarterbacks that you would take over Patrick Mahomes?
No.
Or even if you said, are you telling me that there's 12 quarterbacks who have played better than Patrick Mahomes? you'd say, no, I mean, maybe it's close. Right. But so the argument that I would make, though, for the 13 through 5 weeks, if you look at any Mahomes metric, yards per attempt, passer rating, total EPA per play, he was somewhere between 8th and 15th in every metric except, I think, QBR. QBR has really liked him, ESPN's metric. So if you put all of Mahomes' stats up on the broadcast, completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, EPA, so advanced, traditional, whatever, they would all say 8th to 15th through 5 weeks of this season, other than scramble yards, 1. So do you throw all of those? It's a stat through 5 weeks, or it's a ranking through 5 weeks. And he was 8th to 15th in almost all of them. Like almost every metric you pulled out except ESPN's QBR has him in that range, as does PFF. Now, that's like, are you telling me that he's the 22nd best quarterback at yards per attempt? No, that's just what he's done through 5 weeks, which is 29.4% of the season. So.
Yeah. My problem with it is I'm not sure, like if you told me, okay, we've got this little piece of the screen for every player reserved for you, what do you want to put there? I'm not sure what you would put there for it, because it's.
I wonder if I would only just highlight top 10s instead of because the Derek Nottie thing he was saying, he was
that's
129 of 129 or something. Yeah. In hindsight, and now with foresight, I might say,
so just like
if a guy's top 10, like a star, hey,
like
top 10 guard,
like the way the Ringer does their thing with like a sticker, like a sticker for a certain thing.
See, that might be a better one, right? If you actually want to bring the context of PFF to the broadcast, this says Joe Tooney, number 1 pass blocking guard, or so and so, number 3 run blocking tackle.
That's it.
And you start to use so that's free advice, Chris. And
let's get in a room with Fred 15 years ago and let's fix this.
It's not too late. They can still fix it. That would be the best use.
Yeah.
And then positively show the players, and not disingenuously. You don't have to put Derek Nottie's ranking right or wrong. And I get look, I had that fear before. When players talk about their contracts and their livelihood and everything. If you have new ways of measuring their performance that never existed before, whether it's right or wrong, it affects them. And
of course
they could get
upset
about that.
I have a lot of sympathy for the idea that even if it's just been, even if it's 100% accurate, the idea of throwing up a graphic for a dude who's appearing on Sunday Night Football, that's a big deal for him. And the graphics, you are the worst player in the NFL at your position. Even if it's true, that's pretty harsh. I agree with that. I think I have sympathy with that idea that's just not something you should be throwing up on a broadcast.
In addition to, as the chat brings up, that the number has nothing to do with Mahomes' career. The fact that he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time, that he's already a Hall of Famer, has nothing to do with that. It's just through 5 weeks. Nobody does this in any other sport. Nobody looks like a hitter's hit. I use it all. A hitter's hitting 240 in the month of April. You telling me he's a 240 hitter? It's like, no, he hit 240 in April.
Right.
He'll probably hit 320 by the end of the year because that's what he does. So,
no, it's perfect. We fixed it.
That's PFF badges. PFF badges,
yeah,
is what I would add to Sunday Night Football.
Clear and obvious.
Rob Highland. This is free advice to Rob, who's the new producer on Sunday Night Football. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
And by the way, Chris Long's point is a fair one, right? It is a fair point.
Yeah, we agree with it largely. Yeah. That's the thing. It's stickers, badges, clear and obvious, top 5 guys in certain categories, or top 10 guys, or whatever it is. Make it really easy, at a glance, visual.
Even better.
Number 1.
Check the mic badges. I'll supply the badges for Check the Mic for Sunday Night Football.
Number 1, it's far fairer. Number 2, it's way more actually insightful. You learn more from that rather than just a contextless piece of information that's probably misleading. It's way better. We fixed it. See, here we are, years removed from being employed by them. We're still making their business better.
Still helping PFF here. We got a reaction to ESPN's power rankings. This should be good.
The latest ESPN NFL Nation power rankings. Our panel of more than 80 writers, editors, and TV personalities evaluated how NFL teams stack up against one another, ranking them from 1 to 32. Late-breaking 80-person sample. Watched the NFL this weekend. Saw what the Kansas City Chiefs did to Detroit. They had them at 7 going into last week and dropped them to 9. They watched football this weekend and said the Chiefs are going into the Lions game. We thought they were the 7th best team in football. We've now seen it. They're 9th. Detroit is 2. Buffalo, whose wins have come against teams that are combined 3-21, is 3. I don't want to overstate it when I say this is the single worst power ranking in the history of sports media. I've never seen anything like it.
That's not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be from the week before when the Chiefs were 2-3.
I saw this tweet. I hadn't watched
loss.
the video, though. I had specifically avoided the video thinking that it might show up here, but I had seen the tweet, the caption of this, essentially.
Yeah.
I think right up until the last point, he's 100% accurate. I think it is kind of absurd to rank the Chiefs any lower than, top 3 or 4.
Well, for them to
right
go
now.
down. So I thought it was going to be
And for them to go down is absolutely ridiculous.
I hate power rankings.
Particularly because two of the teams ahead of them, 3 of the teams ahead of them would have lost. And lost in the second week in a row in a small sample size, which would make you go, oh no. And yet they somehow still went down.
Now, let's just be clear here. We're just talking about power rankings, which are fun and for content. Like this isn't life or death that we're talking about.
And where I disagree with him is I think there have been countless worse examples of power rankings in the past.
Yeah. So first off, I thought that this was I saw somewhere in power rankings where they were 17th, or I glanced at one last week and I just skimmed the top 15 and didn't see the Chiefs. It was well, this one's bad.
Right.
Because, they're 2-3. So my least favorite power ranking is the one that is the record, strictly record.
Right.
That is strictly record.
I remember a few years ago where the Steelers
Besides
were
Dave
11-1 or whatever, and everybody in the world was like, "This is fraudulent. They're about to fall off a cliff."
Because
it
mirrors the college AP poll, which always had to be wins and losses generated. You just got to win your games.
Yeah,
and you're the top. So that is the worst when somebody just straight up puts the records. Because whoever had the Chiefs at 17 last week now probably has them at 4. Because of what just happened. You're telling me in one game, 16% of the games have been played, and that's what moved them from 17 to 4 in the last week? I didn't realize that they went down.
Yeah, that's crazy.
After a pretty dominant performance against the Lions. So that is crazy. I have a hot take for you, Sam. I don't care about any rankings that are not using some level of subjective of objective numbers now. So we have power rankings that people put out there. Mm-hmm. We have QB rankings that people put out there that are just eye test QB rankings, and they change weekly. We've been asked about a bunch of those. We've done them at 33rd Team before, and they've been non-automated, say. I'm just not interested in one person's or individuals' opinions that change weekly with the flow of the season. I have no interest in that. It's inherently biased. It's inherently the last thing. So the AP poll in college is under a lot of heat because the same thing happened Florida, whatever it was a few weeks ago. Florida was still ranked after losing to 2 terrible teams, whatever it was. And they were you lose your AP poll, your AP vote. What are you doing? This is terrible. Because the AP voters in college are asked to rank a top 25 when they're watching one game per week covering a team, and then they have to go read the scores and then rank the teams and remember what they did the week before. And it's all subjective and in your brain and recency bias, and I don't care. What I find interesting is if you're ranking off of something objective, PFF grades, EPA, your own models, or what, it's at least interesting because there's a formula there, and you could still pick it apart. It could still be bad, but it's informative as in, hey, the Chiefs just fell to 2-3, but here's all this data that says they should still be a top 5 team. And I think that's more interesting than saying, oh, they're 17th one week. Oh, now they're 3rd again because they won a game. In just going with the ebbs and flows of the fields. That's what I think.
I mean, I'm just not really interested in rankings, period.
Oh, you're just done with all of it.
Well, I don't think the objective ones are no more or less serious than the subjective ones. They're just done. anybody using just here's an objective set of data that says this ranking. I mean, that's interesting just because you get to see things like, the Chiefs are ranked low, but actually they're high in this thing. That's a data point that's worth knowing. But that's the interesting thing, not the fact that this specific data point ranks them higher than the Lions or whatever. Like the ranking is irrelevant. The fact that the ranking can give you insights about what the NFL is doing right now is the interesting thing.
That's what
I
I'm
think
saying.
all these rankings are silly. Just trying to rank anybody, anything next to each other. It's a thing that everyone loves to read or look and engage in, but it's a kind of pointless and silly exercise. I'm more interested in just the overall analysis of the thing.
Well, but re-ranking quarterbacks every week based off what you just saw too. I don't know. I just don't care. Just not into it. All right, we got one more, I guess. In the chat says we're getting Shouty Show with the takes. I don't know if that's me or the chat, but I'll get Shouty Show for if you give me 30 seconds here. Because I can only remember the last few days. I could barely remember Thursday, but one thing I do remember is the New York Giants won on Thursday. That was this week. That was all part of week 6. You know who didn't win this week? The Eagles, the Cowboys, or the Commanders. Are the Giants the best team in the NFC East, Sam?
No.
Okay. Oh, man. We could have gotten really Shouty Show. We could have brought this to the show on Wednesday and responded to it if you really went in on that. Poor take by me. Should have presented it with more confidence.
You posed a question. That doesn't work.
That's not going to work.
No.
I'm never going to be on any of those shows.
You think at the start Greeny was asking the question if they should trade for Shedeur Sanders? No, he was out here telling you they should do it.
Can I have a web redemption on this? I could maybe present it in better form.
I mean, no, you just got to do better.
I've watched all the games this weekend. The only NFC East team to win was the Giants. They beat the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions. The Cowboys can't stop anybody. The Commanders blew it on prime time. The Giants have Jackson Dart. Brian Daboll has his long-lost son. Cam Scattaboo is just running through everybody. The Giants are 2-4. However, they're the best team in the NFC East.
Yeah, there you go. That would have been it, but you didn't do that.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
My web redemption. Is that shouty enough? Is anybody dusting off that take coming out of the weekend?
That the Giants are actually the best team? I don't think so.
I mean, they're 2-1 in their last 3. What are the Eagles, 0-2?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
In their last 2. All right, let's get to some news. We got our Wednesday update.
Now it's time for the Wednesday update, brought to you by the Cincinnati Bugler.
The Bugler will report firsthand here 3 days later. The Tennessee Titans have fired head coach Brian Callahan, first firing of the season.
Breaking news.
This is how the Bugler does it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it takes time to print the newspapers.
We'll have this will be on your front porch this evening,
right,
for the evening edition. Brian Callahan fired by Tennessee. We'll have our full column written.
Yeah.
On Callahan. 4-19 in his 2 seasons and 1-5 this year for the Titans, with that one win being, well, one of the most improbable in NFL history.
A joke. Yes.
Mike McCoy is taking over as interim head coach.
Yeah, not his dad. I think Austin Gayle summed it up pretty well. Like it's been pretty bad. There's been very few any glimmers of hope whatsoever. As he said, not only have they a bad losing record to begin with, but the record against the spread is basically the same as his losing record in the first place. So even relative to expectations, it's been underachieving. And then I think what really just the straw that broke the camel's back was like the press conference at the back end of that game against the Raiders, where Callahan was basically just saying, yeah, it's all bad. Everyone's bad, including the quarterback. Like, everyone's got to be better. You're like, well, at that point, what are we doing here?
It was rough early in the season when he didn't know the rule about elbow being down. There have been some things.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have gone through the recent history of the Titans, and I forget the exact timeline, but they had John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, GM and head coach combination.
And now Vrabes is coming to town.
Yeah, Vrabes is coming to town. It's going to be a tricky one with the interim head coach bump going up against a hot Patriots team. I don't know where I'm going to pick.
And the guy coming back for revenge.
Yeah, so you've got, confounding variables here with revenge game and interim head coach bump. But the Titans went to an AFC championship. They were competing for the number 1 seed. They had the number 1 seed one year and lost in the playoffs. But they were a pretty good team. They fired GM John Robinson. Then they brought in Rand Carthon. fired Mike Vrabel, brought in Brian Callahan, fired Rand Carthon, brought in Mike Bergonzi as GM. So they've had this so they've never had a GM who hired a coach or a coach who came in under a GM and there was continuity there. They were always staggered over these last couple of years. So there was always like, well, Brian Callahan's been hired, but is he like is Rand Carthon now like the lame duck GM? Like it was all staggered. It was off. I do think they might be heading toward more continuity now because they just reshaped the entire front office. Chad Brinker, Mike Bergonzi, former GMs as consultants, and now they're going to get the next head coach under Bergonzi. I think they've spent a couple years going back and forth, and this is like the reset, and now the question is, okay, who's the best guy for Cam Ward? And we always have that same question. Do you get this offensive guru type for the new quarterback?
Yeah.
Bears got Ben Johnson. Or does it matter? Do you get a defensive-minded head coach or a guy that's just a good head coach, like a Mike Vrabel, who the Patriots got to go, for Drake Maye? I don't think there's a clean answer on that, but the change, I think, had to be made because even though they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league, it's been really bad, non-competitive at this point.
Yeah, it has, and arguably getting worse, which is a bigger problem. And we've talked about this before. Doing it now theoretically can kind of give you a head start on planning for the next guy. It's kind of hard to do that while the current guy is still there. Yeah, don't worry about these reports we're building on future people for your job. So he's no longer there, so we can actually get to work in earnest on the next head coach. And even if we don't hire him until the offseason, we can get cooking on figuring out what that looks like now. Yeah, it was a move that had to be made. It got made, and you would imagine things can only get better from here.
Now, there were tweets out there.
Yes.
From insiders. Insiders who probably have agents texting them who the top candidates should be. Ian Rappaport's top two names that he mentioned. I got to bring it up. Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith.
Dude, these insider tweets are getting worse. Like, the degree of water carrying that's going on in some of these tweets is absurd. Did you see, I sent you the thing, right, where Rappaport was tweeting some sort of agent job celebration post from some agency, like some guy had just become a registered agent or whatever, which, by the way, has happened to a former colleague and friend of the show, Brad Spielberger.
Oh, yeah, congrats to Brad.
Like, official, registered, signed, sealed, and delivered NFL agent.
I'd hire Brad.
So we can celebrate that because, number one, he hasn't asked me to, and number two, it's cool.
Yeah.
Rap Sheet is out here celebrating essentially the same thing for some other agency and doing it in like Hollywood-esque script where like out of the shadows emerges this thing. What are you doing?
Well, apparently he was a part of some negotiation a couple of years. Like there was some backstory that no one else knows that he was a part of, and that's why
the agent,
like a handful of fans knew about it. So whatever that out of the shadows thing was, like he was doing something behind the scenes for. I don't even know, but that's how stupid this is.
But it's like that's not your job. You have nothing to do with that. You shouldn't be putting it out there. Only undermines your credibility. Literally, like if it registers at all on anything, what that is saying is that I am connected to these agents. It's like, well, that's not something you should be putting out there as a supposedly independent journalist trying to give people the best information.
All I will say, someone who follows the NFL, not the average fan, someone who follows the NFL closely enough, not an insider, and all an insider is somebody who knows people, doesn't know football necessarily. I don't know that I trust the insider's take on what's going on in the field, we'll say. But the person who follows football, you said, hey, Titans have a job opening. Name a couple candidates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're naming Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith as the top two.
No, and if they are, it shows you what a joke the system is, because if Matt Nagy gets a job off the back of his previous head coaching resume, right, that would be insane. So what's happening is you're saying Patrick Mahomes has now gotten Matt Nagy 2 different jobs. That's ridiculous as a process.
Josh McDaniels with Tom Brady.
Right.
But at least that was split between a decade. It's like, well, at least he's a decade older now and had more time with Tom to learn.
But it's farcical. It's like the guy has got his 3 previous jobs are looking really good with Patrick Mahomes, failing as a head coach, and then looking really good with Patrick Mahomes again. And you're like, well, maybe the second stint of looking really good with Patrick Mahomes has turned him into a good head coach.
And by the way, it was like Mahomes' worst years statistically, and people are saying, "Wow, ever since Nagy came back, this thing's fallen apart offensively."
But it's just a farce of a process. Like that's just insane. I can't even imagine how that shows up as like an idea.
And here I am. I interact with some of these agencies too, but I'm not going to be. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
We're not putting out tweets congratulating them for a dude getting the job.
I mean, I hope I'm not burning bridges by making these jokes, but I don't think they should be the top 2 candidates.
No.
The Joe Bradys of the world are interesting, and I might be guilty of, offensive coordinator who's adjacent to good quarterback or good offenses, and they're overrated too.
And by the way, I do
or mystery box coaches.
Again, this whole idea of like who's going to be a good head coach and who isn't. Like,
I don't know.
The whole thing is a crapshoot. It's almost all based off in information that is not available to the public on the outside, right? So if you want to talk to Matt Nagy and find out, like, if you want to spend a day interviewing Matt Nagy and find out how he's going to avoid everything bad that he did in his previous head coaching job, all power to you.
I have no problem with that.
And if you decide that's the guy, actually, the 8-hour presentation he gave me about how every one of his missteps he's fixed and is going to go in a different direction, if you decide that's the guy, cool. But his resume should not be Patrick Mahomes is still really good, so maybe it's time Matt Nagy has another shot. That is ridiculous. If you want to talk to the guy because he's just in a list of candidates and you've decided, you know what, having spent 8 hours with him, I was really convinced. Sure.
I like the cast the wide net idea.
Because
bring in a different style people, because then your interviewers hear all of the different ideas and then put them up against each other.
Because I don't think that just having failed once should necessarily be disqualifying from ever being good in the first place, right?
I'm pushing back on they're the top candidates per whom?
Per the agent that fed him the tweet.
That's crazy. Who you listen to and the insiders you get your information from, other than this player signed with this team, I'm the first to say, like, that's interesting. Everything else, just be careful. Be careful, listeners. Be careful. They're influencing the market. Anyway, we'll talk more about the Titans coaching job as it gets closer. Brian Branch has been suspended 1 game.
Yeah.
Post-game fight with Juju Smith-Schuster.
Seems fair.
Even Dan Campbell was mad. He's like, I love Brian Branch, but come on, man.
You can't do it. And look, people found a play where Brian Branch got blocked in the back by Juju Smith-Schuster and it wasn't called, and that's why he was pissed off and stuff. And you're like, yeah, okay. I mean, fine. That's reason to be upset. It's not reason to start a brawl after the game. I mean, every NFL player I've seen, now who knows, social media, your own echo chamber, blah, blah, blah. But every former NFL player I've seen has been like, once the whistle blows and it's full time, that's it. Enough. Doesn't matter what happened in the game. You got to shake hands and it's all done. So you can't do that. Yeah, maybe you got unlucky. They were definitely taunting you, quote unquote, during the game. I mean, Mahomes was celebrating a touchdown in his face, and Brian Branch has absolute reason to be very pissed off at the end of that game. I don't think he has reason to start a fight at the end of it, and that's where your 1-game suspension comes from.
Yeah, and that hurts the Lions. What do they have? Oh, Bucks. I mean, they're playing the Bucks next week.
Yeah,
a 5-1 Bucks team. That just hurts the team. Also,
it does, yeah.
Also love Brian Branch, but you can't be doing that. And John Runyon has spoken. And, that's you don't want to embarrass the league.
John Runyon's quote, that statement he put out is some of the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. That is
We're going to talk about this again.
I know you hate this, but I just want to read out the quote. John Runyon, who, for people that do not remember, John Runyon Sr., was arguably the filthiest, dirtiest player in the entire NFL, is now in charge of like player conduct and that kind of and discipline, right? So someone tweeted at me, it's like Dexter. They're using a serial killer to catch serial killers. Like they've sent a criminal to catch a criminal, and John Runyon is now in charge of doling out discipline. And again, the filthiest player in the NFL during his time in the NFL put out the following statement, quote, "Your aggressive, non-football act was entirely unwarranted, posed a serious risk of injury, and clearly violated the standards of conduct and sportsmanship expected of NFL players. Your conduct reflected poorly on the NFL and has no place in our game." End quote. If you told somebody during the playing days of John Runyon that he would be putting out that statement, their brains would have just blown immediately. It is some of the most sanctimonious, hypocritical stuff I've ever seen in my life.
I'm of the two things can be true mind. Just because you did it in the past doesn't mean you can't obviously change. He doesn't do that anymore, John. He's not beating people with helmets. He's not doing flying spears anymore.
You don't know that. He might be.
He might be. But to this point, no evidence that he's still doing that. The second thing is, do you actually need that statement?
No. Then that's why it's
why do you have the
and
statement?
sanctimonious.
Just like throw the one game. Like we all saw what happened.
Yes.
I don't need an explanation.
Right.
Or could you at least say, okay, John's in charge of the punishment and this and that, but like sign someone else's name.
Who's number two
in the
department? That's my question, right?
Yeah.
That's my point. Is like, look, people can grow, and maybe John's, should it be disqualifying? Again, there's value to the idea of send a criminal to catch a criminal, right? But you can't sign your name to that statement with your past. You can't do it. So either don't put the statement out because it's self-evident. He started a fight. He's suspended for a game. End of story. Or whoever my deputy is the guy whose name is going on this statement, right? Whoever like Jim Coppinger is, number 2 at my department of discipline, that's the guy whose name's going on this thing. I'm not signing my name to that.
Signed. Staff.
I know there are
NFL.
videos out there of me spear tackling a guy after the play. I'm not signing my name to that
For
statement.
the optics. Again, I think people are allowed to change after life.
Right,
John
but
might
the optics
be
are
a
bad.
completely pleasant individual now that looks nothing like highlights from 20 years ago.
Yes.
Fine. I think that's possible, and we should give people the benefit of the doubt in that case.
But in a social media landscape where videos exist of your playing days, you just can't put that out there.
So that's a big deal for the Lions, who are already banged up in their secondary. Brian Branch missing this game against the Bucs. On the other hand, the Kansas City Chiefs will have Rashee Rice returning from his 6-game suspension. Good for fantasy people that stashed Rashee Rice. And, the Chiefs offense that now, for the first time, we're going to get to see. They have never played together. Xavier Worthy.
And Rashee Rice.
Marquise Brown.
Oh.
And Rashee Rice.
Okay.
All three of them. Because remember, they had Rice and Worthy for the first few games last year. Then they had Marquise Brown and Worthy the end of last year and into this year. Now they have all three. And they have Travis Kelce. And their whole team is healthy now. So it's a big story in the NFL where some of the other seemingly elite teams have lost over the last couple weeks. The Eagles, the Bills. Elite teams coming back down to earth. A slow-starting Chiefs team on the ascent, and now they're healthy and getting Rashee Rice back. It's a big deal for Kansas City.
It's huge. I mean, this is the first opportunity we're going to get to see what this offense is supposed to look like. We've said this since the start of last season. We've never really gotten an idea of what this thing is supposed to look like because either one or all of the wide receivers or receiving options has dealt with some kind of mitigating circumstance, whether it's injury, whether it's they got injured in training camp and they never really got to, experience the offseason with this team. In the case of Marquise Brown, we've never seen it. This is going to be the first look at what it's supposed to look like.
In addition, a couple other things here. Anthony Richardson, Colts quarterback, has been placed on IR after that incident.
Elastic band injury.
He was going to be a potential trade candidate. We still have to talk trade candidates toward the end of the show here.
Still don't think that's likely.
Yeah, I could see him being, who's the backup now? I haven't looked into that.
It's the Riley Leonard.
Oh, Leonard elevated to backup status here. I wonder if they'd be in the market for someone more experienced for the stretch run here. DJ Moore, Bears wide receiver, groin, hospitalized. Status is day-to-day. Rare hospitalization for the groin injury. Came out early on the Monday night game.
Yeah. Hopefully that's not as bad as that sounds. I mean,
Puka Nakua's ankle sprain, he's day-to-day. They're going to London. I don't know if I'm assuming he's made the trip to do rehab and everything, but he's in doubt here in week 7. We're a couple weeks of doubt here for Puka.
Obviously, if he is day-to-day, then you need him there because you can't, fly him in last second. But if he's not playing, it feels like a transatlantic trip to London is not particularly helpful for your ankle.
I don't know how, I assume the entire training staff goes. I don't know how many. They probably have.
But just the 7 hours.
They probably have training back home.
But just the 10 hours on a plane both ways does not feel like it's useful for your ankle. I mean, I know that there's things you can do, but you're still kind of stuck motionless in a position that's not great for a swollen ankle. I can't imagine that's beneficial for it if he's not going to play.
Other news, Fred Warner has been confirmed to be missing the season with the ankle injury. I think we knew that the other day.
Yeah.
And then just general ebbs and flows of the season. The Bills, Eagles, and Ravens all struggling. And we knew the Ravens had been struggling, but two good teams, Bills and Eagles, now both losing 2 straight games. John Harbaugh still thinks the Ravens can make the playoffs.
Yep.
So they're 1-5. How often has this happened? Well, since the merger. The best cutoff time. It's either the merger or 1978 16-game schedule. Those are your cutoffs that you have to use. Or maybe 2021 17-game schedule now. 4 teams have made the playoffs after starting 1-5. The 1970 Bengals in the merger year finished 8-6, 14-game schedule. The 2015 Chiefs, Alex Smith's Chiefs, finished 11-5. It's a pretty good run.
Yeah. I mean, dude, 8-6 after starting 1-5, you almost won out from that point.
And then the Chiefs won out, went 10-0 after starting 1-5. 2018 Colts, 10-6. Andrew Luck, his last season. And then the 2020 Washington football team.
The football team.
Won the division
with
at 7-9.
With a 7-9 record.
And then hosted the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Bucks, who were 11-5, 4 games better. Hosted them.
Yeah.
And gave them the best game of any team on that Super Bowl run.
Taylor Heineke, right?
With Taylor Heineke just going nuts against Todd
Bowles. 95 PFF
defense.
grade, out-dueling Tom Brady.
He was incredible. Well, he didn't really outduel, but he played great. He was the best. Of the 4 quarterbacks that the Bucs faced that year, Taylor Heineke, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Heineke had the best playoff performance against the Bucs. So that's what the Ravens are going up against. Harbaugh says, quote, "Our focus is going forward and what we can accomplish in the next 11 games to try to earn our way into the playoffs," which obviously, as it was pointed out last night, has not been done very often with the record we have, but we still believe we can do it, end quote.
Yeah,
John
I mean,
Harbaugh.
He's right. They can do it. Like, it's not, again, the fact that the odds for that division are what they are says that it's not a particularly unlikely thing. They play Pittsburgh twice. If they sweep the Steelers, most of that deficit is already back, right? The the Browns aren't going anywhere. The Bengals don't look like they're going anywhere. Like, it's basically, can they overhaul that deficit to Pittsburgh or get themselves in a position where they're chasing that last wild card spot, which looks very attainable for anybody in the AFC at this point. So it's really down to just, can they get themselves together, or does Lamar Jackson come back looking like himself, not looking like the version that left injured? That's the real concern.
That is.
The last 2 games from Lamar Jackson were not the MVP caliber Lamar Jackson we know and expect. They were a guy who's not really feeling the game right now, not seeing it properly, was sort of paralyzed and making some bad decisions. If that guy comes back, their season's done. They're not doing it. If the real Lamar Jackson comes back, then they can absolutely make the playoffs from this position.
It reminds me a lot of last year's Bengals team, though, because
yeah, it's going to have to look like that. I mean, it's going to have to be a shootout every week.
But last year's Bengals team, Burrow was playing great from week 2 on.
Yeah.
He looked like an MVP candidate. The offense was cooking. The defense was letting them down. And we could point back and say, well, missed field goal here, missed play there. Like, they are literally plays away from winning 12 games. The Ravens don't have that. They've played horribly on defense.
Yeah.
And then had had all the injuries and the whole thing. So they have to play better. And what the Bengals needed was 10 things to happen over the last 3 weeks, and 9 of them happened, and they just missed the playoffs. We might get to that. If the Ravens get it together, we still might have that world where they need 9 to 10 things to fall their way just to sneak into the playoffs. But could you imagine them going to Buffalo or Kansas City? We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Go to Buffalo, go to Kansas City, whatever, for a first-round game.
I mean, it's going to be like last year's Bengals. If they make it, they're going to be the run that they're going to have to go on in order to achieve that is going to make them such that nobody wants to see them in a playoff game come January. Even if their defense remains one of the worst in the NFL, like Cincinnati last year, even with a terrible defense giving up yards and points every 3 seconds, nobody wanted to play the Bengals last year because of what that offense was doing on a weekly basis. If the Ravens get there, it'll be the same thing.
Last piece of news on the Wednesday update here. Eagles edge rusher Zadarius Smith announced his retirement a couple days ago. They just signed him right after the beginning of the season, the Friday of the first week.
Yeah.
He was a nice addition to the Lions last year. as a pass rusher, but Zadarius Smith announcing his retirement and leaving the Eagles a little bit more thin on the defensive line.
Yeah, that's a big blow for them. Zadarius Smith was still getting pressure, still playing a reasonable amount of snaps. It chews into that depth that they have on the defensive line, a lot of whom we were saying, like, they're, in my opinion, the problem there is the lack of like a true star pass rusher more than the fact that their depth isn't what it used to be. But this chips into the depth. I mean, they don't have the superstar getting an absolute dominant performance on the edge, and now you're taking away one of the depth positions or one of the depth players. So it's a blow.
Very good player throughout the years.
Yeah.
Across a few different teams. Very good, movable pass rush chess piece, Zadarius Smith.
Yep, good, versatile, impressive career. So kudos to him for the great career and good luck in retirement. From Philadelphia's point of view, it's definitely a blow.
And we're going to talk more about we're going to fix the Eagles in a minute here. We're going to give them some roadside assistance because we're talking about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. When Root offers a rate, though, it's your behavior behind the wheel that gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors. After a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or if you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into Roadside Assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. And today we are providing Roadside Assistance to the Philadelphia Eagles, down that one extra pass rusher in Zadarius Smith, losing their last 2 games. What can the Eagles do here?
Yeah, well, you start to think, is there somebody out there that they could trade for? Are they going to be in the market for a pass rusher now, having lost Zadarius Smith? If they somehow swung a deal for Trey Hendrickson, it would be the most how does Howie keep doing it deal in the history. I don't know if they're going to be in that kind of market, but yeah, I think they're going to be. They're going to be looking to pick up a body somewhere to try and replace what they lost in Zadarius Smith.
The Chiefs have the number 9 PFF pass rushing grade as a team. They are annually, 1 or 2, but they're in the top 5. Their worst seasons, they're 5th. And the defense has taken a bit of a hit these last couple weeks, but I still have faith in that defense. But they've always been built on depth on that defensive line. I've mentioned depth issues. You've mentioned maybe it's the star power. Maybe it's the fact that Milton Williams did have those games where he's unblockable, or Josh Sweat was just a very good player, and it just bumped everybody else that's there right now further down the depth chart. So, yeah, I could see – we'll talk trade candidates here in a minute as well. The edge rush market and Arden Key that I keep mentioning. I do wonder about the Bengals and Hendrickson. Like, if they start losing games, what's the point?
They've already gone, like a couple of weeks ago, it was like, well, you can't do anything too rash. They've won 2 games. They're in a good position. And now they've lost since then every game. And now their record doesn't look any good. And it's like, realistically, this is where you were 2 weeks ago. You just couldn't say it at the time.
Yeah. And look, you don't want to give up on seasons or anything. But if you're Cincinnati and you've only got the 1 year left of Trey Hendrickson, you just gave him a pay bump for this year. Why not look to next year when Burrow's going to be back and healthy and get something for him? Unless you are going to give him the long-term deal, why not get something for him? I think that'd be a huge fit for the Eagles. And the Eagles don't need to give up here. They need to avoid the 2023 collapse and think, look, we've got the pieces in place to make the Super Bowl run like we did last year. They started, 2-2 last year? It wasn't like it was all perfect. They can come out of this.
They're another team that I think would be calling up Miami and saying, are any of your pass rushers available? Again, Jalen Phillips is the guy I'd be interested in from that group, but they could potentially talk to any of them or talk about any of them. Keon White would be another interesting one from the Patriots. I don't know how much he would be available, but that would be a dude that you could imagine adding to that group. And he would have slightly, different players, but same type of deployment possibilities as Zadarius Smith.
And then offensively, you gotta attack the middle of the field and the intermediate level. We got to figure out a way to feed A.J. Brown.
For Jalen Hurts to actually hit the middle of the field.
Yeah, just like watch a couple clips of Dylan Gabriel and just steal a couple passes.
Can we get a dig route anywhere?
That's what, like the A.J. Brown can run that.
He can.
Devontae Smith can run that.
They could, yeah.
I would.
I don't imagine it's beyond them.
I'm back and forth between I want to get Saquon Barkley going and I want to get the receivers going. I think I want to get. I know it's more of a run-first team and set up the pass game, but I want to get those receivers going and know that I can win through the air and then let Barkley be the closer again. That's where Barkley was special, is when they were running the clock out and he was running it for a touchdown, not just running it out.
Yeah.
That's when they were special last year. So I got to get those receivers involved. You got to find a way to feed them the football, but not let the game flow get so out of hand like it did against the Giants that were also dropping back 40. So roadside assistance for the Eagles, call better plays.
Call better plays and hunt the trade market for a Zadarius Smith replacement. I think they're out there. You're going to have to give up something, but it might be for a player that you want to keep around for a while anyway.
All right, go check out root.com. And then we got a quick break to talk about Brooklyn Bedding, Sam. Brooklyn Bedding handcrafts every mattress in their Arizona factory. No middlemen, no gimmicks, just top-tier quality, honest pricing, and real American craftsmanship for a better night's sleep. I actually just had my parents asking about mattresses.
Oh, yeah?
Like they're like in the market. I said, Mom.
Do you know a mattress place, as luck would have it?
I have a deal for you, Mom. Mm-hmm. I'm going to send you. So I sent her the link, brooklynbedding.com. I said, Mom, just for you. You get 30% off site-wide. Just for you.
Yeah.
All you have to do is use the promo Check the Mic at checkout. So if you could just give a ringing endorsement of your mattress for my mom and others that might be in the market right now.
Yeah, it's outstanding. It's luxuriously thick, and as we said before, it's kind of like a hybrid between soft and hard. Whether you like a hard mattress or a soft mattress, it somehow does both. It's pretty impressive. I've not encountered mattresses that can do that before.
So you and my family, so it's not just my mom's deal. This is for everybody. Listen up. brooklynbedding.com. Promo code Check the Mic at checkout. You get 30% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. So it's brooklynbedding.com. Promo code Check the Mic, 30% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so that they know that we sent you. brooklynbedding.com. Promo code Check the Mic. ESPN put out some trade candidates, and we have a beautiful stat here from producer Will. Over the past 6 years, in the month of October, leading up to the trade deadline, the NFL has had 88 trades, an average of just under 15 per year, actually per Schefter.
Okay.
So we should be expecting 15. We've already had 2, I believe.
When's the year start? What's our calendar on this?
In the month of October.
Okay.
In the past 6 years.
Then, yeah.
Since they've moved the trade deadline back.
Right.
It used to be now. It used to be done by now,
Yeah,
which was
week
terrible.
6, right?
So this is better. ESPN put a whole list of potential trade candidates out there. We've seen Flacco, we've seen Odafe Owe. There's a lot of rumor. I'm going to throw some names out there.
Okay.
Breece Hall, Jets running back, he's in the last year of his rookie contract.
That's presumably less likely since Braylon Allen got hurt.
Maybe, but what are the Jets holding on to?
What are they holding on to? I mean, pretty good running back.
Yeah, he's expiring contract, 0-6 team.
Yeah, but if you let him walk in free agency and he signs somewhere else, you get the comp pick formula plus you have him this year.
True.
You trade him away now. I mean, if you do that, you are starting the fire sale that people want in New York.
Rumored teams, a lot of people are connecting Breece Hall to the Chiefs, in part because he's fast. And you got to add more speed. Could you imagine adding Breece Hall's big playability to the Chiefs offense that now has all of their receivers back, all the 4-2 guys? They already have Brashard Smith as a change of pace guy. I do think they're starting to find their way, though, with Isaiah Pacheco running hard and running under center a bit more. So I don't know if it's a massive need. I've seen the Chargers mentioned because Amarian Hampton just got added to IR. Najee Harris already on IR.
Yeah.
They had Vidal. Kamani Vidal.
Vidal. Yeah.
Vidal.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the video that was sent to us?
Yeah. Him in high school.
Heated discussion over the pronunciation.
Yeah.
In the chat the other day. Kamani Vidal.
Vidal,
I
believe.
Jeez,
was what it was.
We'll put it up on the wall.
So I could see phonetically on the board over here. Yeah.
If I could see it over there. There's probably a couple names that I should just always have there just to be sure.
In your eyesight.
Yeah. We should probably have that pronunciation key for me. But would the Chargers be in the mix?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they were definitely talked about it as a team that was looking at running backs, but the way Vidal played, maybe not. I mean, maybe that's enough to say, maybe we can hang tight until Hampton's back.
I like this. We'll just take trade requests in the chat and we'll react to them. So,
okay.
Jeff Tomato suggests Chiga Okonkwo to Kansas City. Titans tight ends. Do they need him?
Not really.
With Kelsey and the other guy there?
Well, that's a good example of like how much of the Chiga Okonkwo optimism is based off, the theory of what he could be. Like how much of his underachieving so far has been he's just not actually as good as people thought he might be, and how much of it is he's in Tennessee and things have been bad there for a long time.
Oh, man. Lugs Gaming suggests Jeffrey Simmons to the Bucks.
Damn. I mean, that would be insane for Tampa Bay.
Jeffrey Simmons. So if I'm the Titans and we're in this full rebuild, I don't think you want the whole fire sale. I keep mentioning the Arden Keys and maybe a Calvin Ridley when he's healthy, and those guys aren't going to be there long term. Like Jeffrey Simmons is playing like a star, and he's your only star on that team. I don't think I want to get rid of him unless it was for a first rounder.
No, I wouldn't want to. I imagine there would be a bunch of teams calling. I definitely would not. Again, it's kind of in the same category as Garrett Wilson. Like unless Jeffrey Simmons is telling you, you know what, I'm like right at the end of my tether here. I'm this close to demanding a trade because I'm sick of this stuff.
Right, from a personal perspective.
Like if he's fine, if that's not where he is, then I have no interest in trading away Jeffrey Simmons.
Couple Saints receivers brought up here. Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
I would hold on to Olave.
Sure. It kind of depends what they plan on doing with Shaheed. I mean, they should pay him. Like, they should lock him up before he hits free agency and keep him in the building. He's really good, and he's been an important player for them. If they're not interested in that, if they're planning on letting him go anyway, then yeah, let's look into moving him, getting something for him now.
Niners, maybe all these pass rushers that we're talking about, Trey Hendrickson, Arden Key, are they in the mix? If they're sitting here at 4-2 with all of these injuries, I don't think you want to call it a lot. I mean, if they were 2-4, you would say, tough season, get him next year. But they're sitting here at 4-2.
Oh, they should definitely be in the pass rusher market like Philadelphia. Again, I'm not sure you want to go, Trey Hendrickson, like something big, because theoretically you're going to get Nick Bosa back next year. And you've got, a rookie this year who you expect to be good going forward, but they need some reinforcements now if they can get them. So, yeah, potentially they're in the market for one of those veterans that might not be a long-term solution, but is an immediate solution.
We keep mentioning Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Same thing I said about Simmons with, say, a Jalen Phillips. Miami needs talent. I think Jalen Phillips has he's great long-term potential. I don't think any of those defensive linemen are living up to their potential. I'd be more likely to give up a Bradley Chubb at this point in his career than a Jalen Phillips. But I'd be, if I have an edge rush need, I'd still be calling about both guys just to see. Phillips is just a few years into his career.
Yeah,
Chubb's getting a little bit older. Phillips should be a part of the long-term mix at Miami because they don't have a whole lot in the long-term mix on the defensive line or on defense at all.
Yep.
Besides Zach Sealer. Any other? Let's see what else do we have in the chat here? Anything good? Shadur to the Bengals. Malik Collins to the Chiefs.
Malik Collins to the Chiefs.
Malik Collins is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL so far this year at defensive tackle for Cleveland. Kansas City. When you talk about some of these top teams, Kansas City's run defense has been a little hit or miss. Chris Jones. Do you want to have some Chris Jones support there?
Yeah,
then you have the Bills' run defense, which looks awful.
Either the Chiefs or the Bills could or maybe should be interested in somebody like Malik Collins. I'm not sure why.
Is he redundant to?
I just don't think Cleveland would want to necessarily give him up. I don't think it's a weird year for the Browns because they're not, I don't think, ready to just detonate the thing and blow up. I think they knew this season was going to be a tread water and get to next year type of year. So you're not, this isn't a revelation to them that, you kind of suck this year. It's not, a lot of times these fire sales are prompted by the fact that the outcome in the season is dramatically different to what they thought was going to happen going into it. And you're like, oh, we're somewhere totally different we thought we were going to be. So actually the direction needs to change. We're going to go in a new direction. We're going to blow it up. We're going to press reset. The Browns aren't there because they're basically where they thought they would be. Maybe they would have hoped for a game or two extra in terms of wins, but we're right on course. We're October the 15th. Dylan Gabriel is the starter. If you ask the Browns privately, not publicly, where they thought they were going to be going into the season, I would imagine they would have told you exactly that. We are going to be October the 15th, and Dylan Gabriel will be starting for this team.
And probably looking at next year.
Yeah, so it's not a surprise. They're not, radical course change here. This is where they thought they would be.
We had a couple of names worth mentioning here. Reek Woolen, Seahawks cornerback. Just a fascinating career for Reek because, for those who don't know, 5th-round pick out of UTSA. The freakiest combine. That was the year of freaky combines, 2022. He had the best combine workout for a corner, I think, of all time. Trayvon Walker had the best combine workout of all time for an edge rusher. A bunch of receivers who weren't even thought of as burners were running sub 4.4, like the Olaves and Wilsons of the world, who were just like good technical receivers, also running fast. But Reek Woolen at 6'3", incredible change of direction and speed and length. You just don't see that. Like, it's like Richard Sherman with 3/10 shaved off of his 40.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But he was a former receiver who had never played corner well in his 2 years after the transition at UTSA.
Right.
Then as a rookie, has 6 interceptions, and it's like Pete Carroll's working magic with this guy, right? And it's like, wow, he hit the upside. Instead of most of those prospects, you think, well, give him 3 years. And instead, did he peak as a rookie? And he's had some tackling issues, but he just hasn't been as good over these last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's an accelerated timeline, but it almost feels like a sort of shortened version of Xavier Howard's career, where another sort of
Xavier
Howard, where another sort of big, long, ball hawking type of corner. I mean, Reek Woolen is significantly more in all of those things. But Howard was a guy that was hit or miss, and then he had the one season where he looked like, he hit the apex of that, right? A first-team All-Pro, 10 interceptions, like 1 million pass breakups. You're like, oh, wow, this guy's now arrived as one of the best corners in the NFL. And then it just didn't happen anymore.
So there's 2 ways. So it's funny because we always mention the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs. Like, those are the teams that have been historically good. They're all going to be in the mix this year. The Eagles have cornerback issues now, too. At cornerback, too, when Quinyon Mitchell's healthy. I've seen them mentioned as a potential team there. So with a Reek Woolen, he's in the last year of his rookie contract. Is he this 1 year, half a year, come in and add some cornerback depth or start for some good teams? Or is he a player like for the Raiders? A couple hours ago, we heard Austin rattle off the cornerback depth chart for the Raiders. Is he a guy where you say, reunite him with Pete Carroll, give him the half year with the intention to sign him long-term and fill a long-term need, not just a short-term need, because we want to keep him around because of the size, speed, and the potential that he has. I think he's an interesting player for both rebuilding teams like the Raiders, but also teams that might be in need of the 1 year help, half-year help here at corner.
I also wonder how dependent he is on that cover 3 type of scheme that's sort of gone out of fashion in the NFL. So that brings up the idea of the Raiders because of the Pete Carroll lineage and how attached is he to players that he used to coach in Seattle and that kind of thing. Geno Smith is a slightly different conversation, but it's a similar idea that there's an obvious connection there with Pete Carroll. But once you get beyond that, you're like, there aren't that many teams now that are running that style of defense. It's very much gone, in a different direction. Like Atlanta would be interesting because of like their defense is cooking right now. They run a lot of cover 3 overall. They've got one, elite high-end corner, albeit a guy who's been dealing with injury. They've been pretty thin back there, and they might be in a position where they're like, we're suddenly pretty good. Maybe we could add a guy that could, not take us to a new level, but, help that as we go. They would be an intriguing team. I can't think of too many other teams that run a lot of cover 3 that would be interested.
Yeah, seemingly out of favor with Mike McDonald over the last couple of years in Seattle for Reek Woolen. Have some questions about quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, as veteran backups. Are there any teams? Because the Giants could get rid of Russell Wilson because they have Jameis Winston.
Right.
Jameis clearly has won out as the devil on the shoulder for Jackson Dart. We know that. So the Angel might get booted out.
What? Russell Wilson does not fit the current vibes in the New York Giants. Like everyone, scatterboo, Jackson Dart headbanging all the way, Jameis just like cheerleading in the background, like W's the whole time, and then Russell Wilson sitting there in his suit, in his duffel bag, being like,
"Does he still have his own office?"
Yeah, like he's like, I don't fit with this. This is not my scene. You know, I'm not really comfortable in this environment. So yeah, it definitely makes sense to remove him from the building. I'm not sure how many teams are going to be falling over themselves to trade for a Russell Wilson at this point. I mean, who's a solid team that has no kind of backup? Because that's what you need.
I didn't come prepared with specific.
Because it's like who's the worst number 2 quarterback situation in the NFL right now of a team that's solid.
Depending on how long Anthony Richardson's hurt, is it the Colts? So you have Daniel Jones insurance. Who else?
I mean, Buffalo has Trubisky. The Patriots. Who's the Patriots backup?
They got Josh Dobbs.
Okay.
Chargers have Heineke, I think, right?
Yes.
Broncos have Stidham. Mr. Preseason this year. Eagles have the great Tanner McKee.
The great, yeah.
So, yeah.
We've already seen Marcus Mariota in action.
Yeah. I don't think there's a great
I just don't see too many teams, who have the obvious spot for him as the clip-holding backup that you might be forced to call upon.
Who's backing up Darnold? Get him back to Seattle?
Who's backing up Darnold? I don't know who's backing up Darnold.
I don't have every team directly in front of me here. I've lost track of some of the backups.
Chiefs have Minshew, so they're okay, you would think.
And then I think the Falcons are just going to sit there and hold on to Kirk Cousins, right? I mean, there's no place for Russ. There's no place for Cousins. You might as well just keep him there.
Well, not only is there no place for him, but the reason any team would be looking for him is the reason the Falcons want him in the building. I mean, he's a good backup. Like, at this point, there's no real benefit to trading him away. Like, the benefit would have been previously when, you could potentially get rid of him for something if there was a team out there. But if that didn't materialize, you're better off having Kirk Cousins if you need him than not having him. Oh, Drew Lock is the backup in Seattle. And then Jalen Milroe.
They got Lock.
Jalen Milroe there as well.
Joel Bitonio to the Broncos. They have guard injuries. The Browns have this older offensive line that's not signed for next year. Bitonio being one of those guys. I've seen Zeitler's name for Tennessee. Just throw every Titan out there. He's only on a 1-year deal in Tennessee if you want, for teams that need guard help.
Dude, can you imagine trading away like the best offensive lineman from that Browns offensive line that's already in trouble when you're planning on starting 2 rookies for the rest of the season?
You could have said the same thing for the Titans with Zeitler.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, yeah.
Skoronski's playing better.
It's pretty harsh to be like, this is already a pretty crappy situation for a rookie to be in. And by the way, your best offensive lineman's not going to be here anymore because somebody wants to give us a 4th-round draft pick.
I wouldn't do that with Tennessee. Bitonio and the Browns, I don't know, man. You can't completely blow it up. But the list at ESPN has all 3 of their interior players: Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Ethan Pocic.
I mean, at some point, it's just kind of negligent to the core. I mean, even if you have no faith in the idea that either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders is any part of your future, and they are effectively just sacrificial lambs of the season, there's still a degree to which that's kind of whatever. If you're just burning a year with Russell Wilson, like Russ has had a good career, we don't really care, The Giants have basically hosed Russell Wilson this season, and yet Russ has had his time. He's made a lot of money. We don't, he can deal with it. It's his, who cares, right? We don't mind that we kind of stabbed him in the back and it's all good. You can't do that to 2 rookies, like 2 mid to low round rookies. You can't just be like, you know what? You're going to go out there, take a beating for us, and we're going to undermine you at every opportunity.
No, you want an environment where you can evaluate them. So,
even if you don't, even if you've already made the evaluation, however silly that may be, even if you've just predetermined these guys have got nothing, right? There's no way either one of these guys has a shot to be the quarterback of the future. You still can't really throw them out there and just like take everything away from them and be like, sorry, kid. Like, I know it was your lifelong dream in your NFL career, but we've just decided to burn it in the sake of appeasement to the fans this year. Unlucky. Like that would be mean. Like, whatever about process, that just feels harsh.
One other name I'll throw out there, Alvin Kamara, has been mentioned. The same way Breece Hall has been mentioned. Different reasons. But Kamara later in his career here.
Yeah. I'm not trading anything for Alvin Kamara as much as he might help a team. I'm just not doing it.
You're not, huh?
No. He's kind of old. Not super old, but old enough that I'm not trading anything away for him.
He's younger than Austin Gayle.
He is younger than Austin Gayle. He's probably fitter than Austin Gayle, too.
So he's got this year and next year on his contract, and then, of course, 4 void years, as the Saints,
of course,
have done.
Yeah.
Current cap number of $18 million for next year. So that
what does that do if they trade him away? Do the void years hit? Does that hurt them cap wise?
They'll have a lot of dead money.
Yeah. So they're probably not massively incentivized to trade him away either.
No, but they'll have a 31-year-old, $18 million cap hit on the books next year.
Beautiful.
So, and $8 million in 2027. Maybe not the best deal in hindsight for Kamara, who's still looking decent. He's not in rough shape. He's moving okay.
If they trade him away, that's this year. So post June, it's only a $7 million debt hit next year if they trade him away.
Yeah, but this year and next year. Yeah, so it's not awful.
For the next 4 years, in fact, there's money. There would be dead money if they trade him away now.
Yeah,
$7 million this year, $7 million next year, $5 million the following year, and $3.1 million the final year.
Anyone else worth mentioning, or any other good ones in the chat? Any suggestions on trade suggestions here? I do think we'll see. In a lot of the players that we mentioned are either expiring contracts, like they're in year 4, they're unsigned for year 5 as a non-first round draft pick, or they're an older player on a lesser team. There are some surprising trades that you just like. Odafe Oweh was one of those types of players, right? He's not signed long term. The Ravens do need him, but they just did that exchange for Alohi Gilman to fill different needs. So we'll have some surprising ones. I think we'll see a pretty active trade deadline or a trading time over these next couple of weeks because teams are starting to, if you're a 1 or 2 win team in week 7, week 8,
it does
make sense to look to the future.
And it is usually the guys, not just expiring contracts, but a big part of the evaluation is just it's a small contract, right? The smaller the contract, the easier it is for both teams to move around with it, both in terms of the team getting rid of them, because if there's a dead cap hit, it's not a big one, and the team acquiring them because you don't need a huge amount of cap space to free up to deal with it. It's almost you're trading contracts as much as players. Like you look for the guys that are not on a huge amount of money, or if they are, the guaranteed amount of money has already been paid. It's salary that you have to deal with, and that's much more attainable. Like those are the contracts that get traded around.
I see some people asking about Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Would be an interesting one. Like he's finishing up his rookie contract year 5 next year. You probably can't keep him long term.
Right.
Between him, Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns. It's nice right now. It's a lot of fun. I would love to see the Giants draft another, second, third round edge rusher to add to the mix so that you always have depth there, but it might make sense. Even though I've already declared the Giants as the best team in the NFC East, and they're probably going to go on a Super Bowl run here with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo. Maybe you don't want to give them up, but probably worth considering for the future there.
Yeah, I mean, he would be an interesting name in that group that we talked about, the teams that need pass rushers. I mean, I assume the Eagles are not going to get him on the basis that he's in the same division, but maybe the 49ers could make that move.
The Browns gave the Bengals Flacco.
They did. But maybe the 49ers would be able to prize Thibodeau from the Giants. I mean, the Giants are, if teams that have crappy records right now are in the world of, they're the teams that start selling, and the teams that are good are buyers more than sellers. I mean, the Giants' record isn't good, but they're feeling good right now off the back of beating Philadelphia and, moving in the right direction with Jackson Dart. I don't know how much they view themselves as sellers anymore.
Any teams that would look at Thibodeau as, I wonder if the Lions have gotten some help there against Hutch. I wonder how many teams would look at him as a guy that you're trading for and then trying to sign long term.
Yeah.
So he's helping you short term, but a guy in the long term as well. I'm not seeing any teams where I would be like, I need to give Kayvon Thibodeau $20 million.
No.
Commanders?
Maybe.
Are an interesting one.
Yeah.
There. I'm just looking through a lot of the top teams.
Yeah, Commanders would be the only one.
But they're in the division, So
the only one that jumps out is that they could be in that kind of world, and as you said, division, so it's probably not happening.
And then maybe the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs, just pure juice off the edge doesn't feel strong.
If the Chargers hadn't already traded for Oweh, they would be in that category, I think, a team that could bring him in now for help and potentially would be interested in signing him long term.
Yeah. Last thing, we touched on the Mike Tomlin thing briefly, but essentially saying, I think he's upset that he's facing Flacco and not Jake Browning, and he vented. So the Browns giving up Joe Flacco within the division.
Yeah, it's just an unusual amount of shade to throw towards Andrew Berry specifically, and the Browns generally. I mean, you usually don't see NFL people do that kind of thing, even if they think it privately. I mean, he basically called him out for being a fake smart guy and saying, it seems like a pretty stupid move to trade away your quarterback within the division. Whereas, I mean, we've talked about it. It's a fairly obvious reason why they did it. And it's not, I mean, you can disagree with it, but it's not obviously stupid.
You're right. You don't get that publicly. We've been in meetings before with NFL teams. One that stands out in my mind that I've mentioned before. It was when the Browns just started their analytical moves.
Yeah.
And a former GM, a current GM at the time, was making fun of their computers and their decisions. And in that GM, it's just a funny world because that GM at the time, if you were ranking GMs, he doesn't have a job anymore. If you were ranking GMs at that time, he's probably not making it out of the bottom 5.
Right.
But he had no problem being like, look at those idiots over there. Now, it's all perspective, right? He's one of the top 32 GMs in the world. There's only 32 jobs in the world.
Well, apparently he wasn't because he no longer has that job. There's at least one. There's at least 32 better than him because he doesn't have the job anymore.
But people have no problem, like behind closed doors.
Yeah.
People have no problem saying,
I mean, half the league hates each other. Yeah, behind closed doors, they're all trashing each other.
I can't believe they draft this way or they have this style or they gave up on that player. But this was public.
Yeah.
Like Tomlin saying, I can't believe you gave a division rival a starting quarterback. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, maybe the draft improving 40 or 50 spots in the draft isn't a massive deal on day 3. But it's still better than just having Flacco on your bench and letting him walk again.
And not particularly, it wasn't, sometimes you get these answers to questions where they've kind of been led into the answer by the question, and there's only so many different ways you can go. This was fairly unprompted attack on Andrew Berry. I mean, he was asked a question that was, relative to this, but he decided to take it in this guy's an idiot direction, which is, again, unusual.
All right, we got a long show today, but we got to touch on some mailbag. You okay with that?
Yeah. But we're going to, I think, definitely truncate this email. So we've had multiple correspondence from our friend of the show, Matt Colquitt, who, if people remember, was the guy that sealed the deal in terms of my college football fandom with his free merchandise and bribery.
4-2 SMU. They're coming back here.
There you go. You see? He's an SMU fan, and he got us in that direction. So he wanted to follow up on our conversation previously surrounding the controversy of phasing out the phrase "pony up," the catchphrase that the SMU faithful has gravitated to. But as he's perpetually a week behind on content, he's only getting around to the conversation about it now. Anyway, he had a big conversation about it and how the Mustang faithful are not happy about this. He then followed up a few days later and said, despite no official mentions of pony up on the media screens over the PA system, he can confirm individually, as someone that was there, that pony up is alive and well, with many shirts emblazoned with the slogan and it being yelled incessantly throughout the game. It is here to stay. So, regardless of what the shirts, the suits are trying to do, pony up will not die and shall not die. Not on my watch.
The people make the
as a lifelong SMU fan.
That's good. I'm happy for you and all your fellow pony up SMU fans.
Lifelong fans.
Lifelong. Yeah. Is that it on that?
Yep.
That's appreciate Matt, and we appreciate the merch. We got mine. I got mine for the winter.
Yep.
It's well-fitting hoodie. So, all right, that's it for us today. Long one. I love our Wednesday shows. Appreciate Austin Gayle for joining.
Yes.
And as always, so you can email us, check the mic at the33rdteam.com. We have memberships available. Watch along tomorrow night.
Indeed.
Are we going to do a little bit, free for a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be open to everyone at the beginning, and then it will become a members exclusive thing 20 minutes, half an hour into it or so. So you can come hang out with us for a little bit and get a flavor of what we're doing.
Yeah, so Steelers-Bengals watch along tomorrow night. Sign up for the membership so that you don't miss anything. Hit subscribe. Hit thumbs up right now. Click the button, thumbs up. Hit subscribe, and then join us tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. for our Week 7 NFL preview. See you guys tomorrow.